We can all start taking our seats. All right. Very good, very good. Good to go, Mr. Harrison? All right, everybody, let's go ahead and take our seats. Let's go ahead and call this Pompano Beach City Commission meeting to order, April 9th, 2024. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Nice crowd today. If I could ask everyone, please, before we get started, if you can all just take just a minute to shut off your cell phones or put them on vibrate, that would be great. That way we won't be disturbed during our meeting. I would appreciate that. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and call the roll. Mr. Alfred.
Commissioner Fournier.
Here.
Commissioner Moss.
Here.
Commissioner Perkins.
Here.
Commissioner Segerson Eaton.
Here.
Vice Mayor McGee.
Here.
Mayor Harton.
Here, thank you. Our invocation today will be given by the Rabbi Zivi Decker from the Shabbat of North Broward Beaches. That will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If we can all please stand for the invocation, followed by the pledge. Rabbi?
Thank you. Almighty God, we stand before you in prayer. Look favorably upon the mayor and the honorable members of the City Council of our great city of Pompano Beach. We beseech you, Almighty and merciful God, to extend your grace to each and every member of this august body. Bestow upon them the joy of life, good health, and prosperity. Bless these distinguished individuals who have been chosen to make laws and decisions for the citizens of our city. Grant these public servants wisdom and understanding in the noble pursuit of justice and equality. Give them guidance so that they will always be conscious of your presence and they will strive to enact laws with honesty and integrity in accordance with your will. May they have the wisdom to turn adversity into opportunity and to transform the hard challenges that we face today into the seeds from which will sprout forth the growth of tomorrow. Amen. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Can I get a motion approving the regular City Commission meeting minutes of March the 26th, 2024?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. On our agenda this evening or this afternoon, are there any changes, Mr. Harrison?
No, sir.
Very good. Can I get a motion approving the agenda as printed?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. On our consent agenda today, there will be no items pulled, so items 1, 2, and 3 are eligible for discussion during audience to be heard. So consent agenda items 1, 2, and 3 can be discussed at audience to be heard. Thank you. That takes us up to our proclamations. We have 3 proclamations today. First, we'll start off with Outstanding Police Officer Recognition, followed by National Autism Awareness Month Proclamation, followed by Earth Day Proclamation. Right over here at the side table, let's see, Outstanding Police Officer Recognition for Deputy Brandon Marston. I believe we have someone from BSO who's going to help and give us a little rundown of what took place before I read the proclamation. Thank you.
Can you hear me now? I'm here on behalf of one of our wonderful deputies, Brandon Marston. I'm going to tell you about an act of heroism that saved the life of one of our residents. And I don't want to say ironically, but the resident that he did save was the daughter of our CSA, Judy Smith. And we have Brandon Marston over here. Judy Smith and her huge family are back there in the middle in the back. So we received a call about a vehicle accident where a pedestrian was struck by a car. When deputies arrived on scene, it was a horrific scene. As a matter of fact, Judy was working that day, and she became aware of the incident, and she drove to that location. And could you imagine what it's like for a mother to see her child in a very horrific situation? What happened was Judy's daughter had run out of gas. She was maybe just a few feet away from the gas station. She decided to push her car into the gas station. A motorist came along and failed to stop, and the motorist struck her vehicle from behind and literally ran her daughter over. Imagine the scene, the panic, fire personnel, and sheriff's office personnel on scene trying to unravel this mystery and figure out what they have to do. And you have a young lady who is critically injured, definitely at a point where she could possibly bleed out and pass. Deputy Marston is well trained in the use of a tourniquet, as well as all of our personnel. But in that scenario, he just cleared his head. He saw his mission. He went in with all the blood and all the mess, and he applied that tourniquet, and he applied that tourniquet just perfectly. And had he not applied the tourniquet at that moment, and in the correct way, Judy may have lost her daughter that day. And this was confirmed by the fire personnel and by the medical staff at the hospital that Brandon Marston did in fact save her life. And that's we're here today to welcome Judy and her family and to acknowledge Deputy Brandon Marston for his incredible act of heroism. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that explanation about what happened. You know, I read a lot of proclamations, and we always say thanks to various folks, but I mean, this one really touches your heart. You know, I know our first responders, ESO, our fire rescue folks, they're out there day in, day out, working for us, trying to keep us safe, do the right thing. But when something like this happens, it really touches you and it makes you understand what kind of a job they've got. They're out there, they see all kinds of things that none of us want to see, and they really do save lives. So thank you, Deputy. Appreciate it. Thank you. Now, come on over. Outstanding Police Officer, Deputy Brandon Marston, Broward Sheriff's Office, Pompano Beach District. Whereas Deputy Brandon Marston has been selected for special recognition of his efforts and outstanding and dedicated performance in carrying out his assigned duties in fighting crime and going above and beyond. And whereas on January 28, 2024, Deputy Marston performed life-saving measures for a woman who had been involved in a serious crash, and without his quick and calm demeanor, it was very possible the victim could have succumbed to her injuries. Now therefore I, Mayor Rex Harden, on behalf of the entire City Commission and residents of Pompano Beach, do hereby express our sincere appreciation and thanks to Deputy Brandon Marston for his distinguished service to our community, and highly commend him for the manner in which he has carried out his duties and responsibilities. Done this 9th day of April, 2024. Rex Harden, Mayor. Deputy Marston, thank you so much for what you do for our community every single day. Absolutely, yeah. Come on. Just a moment for a photo op here. Very good. All right, our next proclamation is National Autism Awareness Month proclamation. I will be claiming April as National Autism Awareness Month in the city of Pompano Beach. Martin and Margie Hedlund of the Autism Society of South Florida will accept the proclamation on behalf of the society. And I think we've got a bunch of people here who will be accepting the proclamation. Come on down.
We always travel fast.
Yeah, that's good. How you doing? Absolutely. All right, Mark. Mark, come on.
Needs more money.
What else is new? Right. Gather around, everybody. Gather around. What? Okay, that's better. All right. Whereas Autism Awareness Month is observed annually in April, and April 2nd is recognized as the United Nations sanctioned World Autism Awareness Day. Both designations are intended to increase understanding and acceptance of people with autism. And whereas autism or autism spectrum disorder refers to a broad range of conditions characterized by challenges with social skills, repetitive behaviors, speech, and nonverbal communications, it is often accompanied by medical issues such as GI disorders, seizures, sleep disturbances, anxiety, and depression. Research indicates that early diagnosis, intervention, and access to support services leads to positive outcomes later in life for people with the disorder. And whereas National Autism Awareness Month is backed by the Autism Society of America, which has local chapters throughout the United States, which hold special events throughout April and undertake a number of activities to raise awareness about autism. And whereas Autism Awareness Month promotes acceptance and celebration of autistic people who are our family members, friends, classmates, co-workers, and community members, and the valuable contributions they make to our world. And whereas autism is a natural variation of the human experience, and we can all create a world which values, includes, and celebrates all kinds of minds. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Rex Harden, Mayor of the City of Pompano Beach, on behalf of the entire City Commission, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2024 as National Autism Awareness Month in Pompano Beach, Broward County, Florida, done this 9th day of April 2024, Rex Harden, Mayor. And now, if we could all give a big round of applause for Margie Hedlund, who... And Margie, I'm sure you got some things to fill us in on.
Yes, and I've been accused of talking too much or getting off course. You hush. So I actually wrote something down so I didn't mess it up. First off, good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioner, City Manager, you. My name is Margie Hedlund. I serve on the Board of Directors for the Autism Society of Florida. I am their lead first responder trainer. So myself, along with my family, my son Dalton. Dalton is an identical twin. My other son couldn't be here, but if you've seen one, you've seen the other. So just imagine, there's another one. And this incredibly cute guy, you guys know him as Captain Hedlund. He is my husband of 35 years on Thursday. Yes. And we travel the state of Florida and we train first responders, military personnel, and city government officials how to communicate, de-escalate, better communicate with people who communicate differently. Everybody with the Autism Society of Florida, we're volunteers. Nobody gets paid, and we never charge cities, communities for resources or whatever we do. So I travel the whole state, and I'm not just saying this because this is our home, but Pompano Beach, you guys are the best at this. I mean, your Parks and Rec department, look at these guys. I mean, what you guys do, not only for the month of April, which is highlighted because it's Autism Awareness Month, but December, February, it doesn't matter. The city of Pompano Beach is, in my opinion, whether I'm wearing my city shirt or my ASF shirt, the most inclusive city of our size in the state of Florida. And that's thanks to these guys in blue. So I want these guys in blues to get a clap. Really, The city's having a really big event this Saturday at Community Park. It's for everybody, but they're also going to take an hour out of the event to make sure that people with autism, people that see, hear, feel, touch the world differently are comfortable. Come out, guys. It's an amazing event. And thank you, Pompano, for every year just recognizing and supporting our amazing community. Thank you so much. All right, I'm gonna give, you know what? You look like a nice person. Are you a nice person? You're dressed up, so. Oh, you're taking everybody out front. Nice person.
All right. Now we're going to finish it off with our third proclamation, last but not least, to celebrate Earth Day proclamation. Mayor Rex Harden, of course, will proclaim April 22nd, Earth Day in the city of Pompano Beach. Russ Ketchum, Director of Environmental Services, will accept the proclamation, and plus he has some other stuff to fill us in on. All right. Whereas, Earth Day is an annual event on April 22nd to demonstrate support for environmental protection. The official theme of 2024 is Planet versus Plastics. And whereas the city of Pompano Beach is committed to protecting and preserving its natural resources and recognizes the important role its citizens play in this endeavor. And whereas having a clean, well-maintained community results in a climate which encourages economic growth and opportunity. And whereas education, public policy, and activism are our best tools with which to forge our commitment to environmental stewardship. And whereas all people, regardless of age, race, gender, income, or geography, have the right to a sustainable, healthy environment with economic growth and opportunity. And whereas citizens, businesses, and the whole community, through a collaborative effort, can make a difference for the better, both locally and globally. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Rex Harden, Mayor, on behalf of the entire City Commission and residents of Pompano Beach, Florida, do hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2024 as Earth Day in the city of Pompano Beach, and urge all residents to commit to being good stewards of our city's air, land, and water resources to create a sustainable, healthy community. Done this 9th day of April, 2024. Congratulations, Mr. Ketchum, for all you do, and thank you on behalf of all the residents. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. You know, at the city of Pompano Beach, even though April has Earth Day, we're always striving to push environmental issues and recycling and sustainability. And so we're always looking for new ways of adapting programs and creating programs. So I wanted to take a moment and introduce the latest program that we have, which is a compost. It's a compost program, compost bin event that we'll be having, but it's a composting program that you would do at home. We are providing, actually, sorry I messed this one up. but we also, not including the bin that actually you put your material in, this is to hold your household scraps. So it's an event that's going to be happening on the 20th of April. The bins are complimentary. There's at no cost to residents. And it's encouraging the recycling, if you will, of food scraps and other materials to mix with vegetative materials and produce a compost material, which is a fertilizer type material. So this is something, again, that's going to be happening on the 20th from 9 to 2. It's going to be right across the street from the Air Park on 10th Street. I encourage anybody that's interested in doing this to please come by. We do have a limited number of compost bins, but we will be doing this multiple times a year. Another thing I'd like to showcase is we have a household hazardous waste collection event. That's going to be happening on actually the 13th, this Saturday, same location across from the Air Park, also from 9 to 2. So if you have any household hazardous type materials, please bring them to that particular event, along with obviously identification that puts you in Pompano Beach. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Russ. This really is a neat tie-in with Earth Day and composting for the residents. It's a fantastic program. Thank you so much. Sandra, you want to get one more?
What time on the 20th?
On the 20th, it's from 9 to 2. It's also on the website. Oh, there you go.
That takes us up to first presentation is the Actuarial Valuation Report presentation. Presentation of the Actuarial Valuation Report for the City of Pompano Beach Police and Firefighters Retirement System as of October 1, 2023, as prepared by the Nyhart Company, Inc., and presented by Mr. Lawrence Watts of the Nyhart Company, Inc. I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. I'm trying to figure out how to shift things. Bear with me 1 second.
There you go.
Try to maximize. Thank you. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I'm Lawrence Watts. I'm the actuary. I'm here on behalf of the board of the Pompano Beach Police and Fire Retirement System. Come every year to give you a quick summary of the annual valuation results that are prepared that basically do two things. They calculate the total liability associated that has been accrued to date for the current active firefighters and now all the retired police officers who were in the Police and Firefighters Retirement System, and then to assist the board in setting the contribution policy, so how much the city needs to pay each year. So that's why I'm here. Happy to take any questions that you have, but we'll try to get through things relatively quickly. So this is page 3 of the presentation for those who have it in front of you, but these are really the highlights. So again, the valuation is prepared every year as of October 1st, so it basically analyzes the experience from the preceding year. So the October 1st, 22 to 9/30/23 time period is what we're looking at here. And so in 2023, the markets had a pretty good year. You all might remember that 2022 was not the best, and we had some pretty challenging investment environment, both on the fixed income and equity side of things. But the plan returned 9.06% on a market value basis, which is in excess of the now 7% return. Last year, the assumed return was 7.1%. But those of you who are familiar with pension plans know that to prevent budget volatility mainly, that returns are smoothed over a period of time so that one bad year, one good year doesn't cause too much fluctuation. And because 2022 was such a challenging year, that average smooth return was about 3.5%. So overall, even though it was a good year, just when we're looking at 2023, on an average basis, we still trailed our assumption. As I alluded to, the final 2 active police members entered the drop during the year, so now there are no current active police officers who are earning the benefit in this plan. But there were a large number of fire retirees as a result of the collective bargaining changes that happened a year ago. We'll talk about that in more detail, but we had a big number of firefighters enter drop because they were now eligible when they weren't before. We also look at the liabilities and how they progress versus what we assume. So we make a lot of assumptions about how long people work, what their future pay raises are going to be, how long they're going to live, those sorts of things. And this year, liabilities came in higher than we expected relative to a year earlier. A large portion of that was due to salary increases being higher than assumed. That's not surprising given the collective bargaining agreement. But we also had fewer deaths than we anticipated, which is a great thing, but it is more expensive for the plan. As people are living longer, it costs more money. Just very quickly going through that middle section, the board has had a policy over the last 5-6 years to lower their discount rate from 7.5% down to 7%. You can think of that as the assumed earnings on the trust assets in the plan. And it's basically saying, how much money do we need to put away today to satisfy our liabilities in the future? In general, a higher discount rate means lower calculated liabilities. So lowering the discount rate, which the board has been doing for the last 6 years, is a more conservative approach. That's the way to think about it. It will put the plan in better long-term financial footing, even though the calculated liabilities are higher. So add all that together. Everything I just talked about, what happened, you often, if you know one number about a pension plan, it's the funding percentage. And it's basically what percentage of today's liabilities do we have in assets if we had to pay everything today based on what's been earned today. And that number went down 4.4% relative to the last year. And again, that's just because it was a challenging year on many fronts. The liabilities came in higher because of the pay raises and fewer deaths. We're still smoothing in those asset losses from 2022, and we lowered the discount rate. Even though it was only 10 basis points, that does result in a higher calculated liability. But what does that do to the contribution, right? Well, that means the contribution has to go up. Liabilities are higher than we thought. We're recognizing asset losses. So the total contribution to the city for fiscal year ending 25 is now $23.6 million. That's about $3.5 million higher than last year's report, but not out of line with some of the increases we've seen from similar plans that have been doing similar things. The one thing that is different, which we'll talk about later, is the kind of sea change that happened as a result of the collective bargaining changes last year. So that really did change the plan materially, and now there's a new normal going forward. Down at the bottom, just some things that the board is worrying about, just to update the commissioners. There has been an experience study approved for this year. An experience study is an analysis basically of the assumptions we use to calculate the liabilities. We're not anticipating major changes, but we could tweak things like disability assumptions or pay raises into the future. There are a lot of unknowns right now because the plan structure changed so much with the firefighter ordinances last year. People can now retire earlier than they used to be able to. The cost of living adjustments are higher, and we won't know how much that has affected behavior for a few years into the future. The other thing, and I've mentioned this in prior years' presentations, is that this is something technical, but if we go back 30 years ago, that was the dot-com boom. And basically what happened is there were gains after gains after gains because stocks were returning so much year after year after year. And because of the way that the plan is funded, over a 30-year period back then, you would recognize any gains and losses over time. And so when you had a string of gains from a decade like you had in the mid to late 90s, basically what that did is it created a surplus that lowered your contribution for the next 30 years. Well, that amortization, we call it, is being used up finally because we're 30 years into the future. And so as that falls up, contributions will go up even if everything else happens as we assume. So we're having discussions with the city manager, with the board about ways to be ready for that as that starts to happen and ramp up in the next few years. The other thing is that very last bullet, and that's just that because there is this 5-year smoothing of returns and 2022 was bad, unless the markets scream the next 2 or 3 years, we are going to face upward pressure the next couple of valuations. So, any questions there? The next slides will go much, much more quickly. All right. Here's a history of funded ratio over time. That's that single number I was talking about. And there are 2 lines here. There's that light gray line, which is on that smooth basis. That's what we call an actuarial value of assets basis. And then there's the red line, which which is the market value. And you'll notice the big thing that happened is in 2022, that red line went way down. You went from about 75% funded to about 50% funded. And it was basically a double whammy. It was the markets went way down in the year that we recognized all of those benefit improvements for the firefighters. And so that gray line is not all the way down there yet, and that's because we have not fully reflected all of the asset losses from 2022. Now, we wouldn't expect another big liability increase like that, so we wouldn't expect another precipitous drop, but it does kind of give you an idea of what has happened the last 2 years and why contributions are so much higher than they were in the recent past. Okay, we break down that contribution on the next 2 slides just in 2 different ways. So this dark blue bar shows the portion. It says city and BSO. Now the city pays the whole portion, but it's basically how much of the contribution is being borne by what we call employer contributions and how much is being paid by other parties. So you all know that the firefighters put a portion of their pensionable pay into the pension fund. That's that red bar. About $2 million is coming from employees. And then state premium tax, the 175 monies, is also covering about $3 million. But the rest of it is coming from the city. And so you see that was about $12.7 million 2 years ago, and that's up to 23.6 now. This is the same thing looked at another way. And so rather than focusing solely on who is paying for it, it's basically how much of this is ongoing cost versus debt service. And so you have this unfunded liability that needs to be paid off. And if you think of it like your mortgage payment, well, that's the principal and interest of your mortgage payment. And that's that gray bar there. And you can see how much larger it is relative to 2 or 3 years ago. That's $17.3 million of the cost. And the rest of that, so the little yellow bar is interest, the light blue bar is employee contributions, and the dark blue bar is what we call the employer normal cost. That's the cost of just earning another year's benefits in the pension plan. So just what does 1 year of benefits cost the city in terms of what the firefighters earn? You can think of that as roughly $9 million. That's that interest piece plus that dark blue piece. If we break that down between police and fire, those of you who've been here will know that the police portion of the plan has been closed to new entrants for quite some time. Now new police officers get their pension benefits through BSO, but there were, until last year, active police officers still participating in this plan. But because there have not been a number of new police officers, it's mostly funding benefits that have already been earned and are more or less locked in at this point. And so you see that in the gray bar, which is the police portion, versus the red bar. The gray bar has been relatively steady, creeping up a little bit, $5.4 million roughly of the contribution, but the fire bar changed quite a bit, right? And I'm beating a dead horse, but I felt it was important to just reiterate it, that the benefit improvements that were approved by ordinance last year that became effective in 22-23 made the costs go up for the ongoing firefighters, the continuing actives who are earning benefits in the plan. I don't need to read through these again, but the important things to know are it basically let firefighters retire earlier. It let them get a cost of living adjustment earlier and at a higher rate than what they used to have. And the trade-off is that all future fire premium tax monies would be used to offset the cost of the plan. So prior to 2022, there was a share plan where some portion of the money was allocated to the firefighters. That was given up as part of the negotiations in the collective bargaining agreement. We're almost done, but again, just because the discount rate assumption is so important, that 7% number we've been talking about, we always give the board several benchmarking slides here. We've included a couple for the commission. This is a comparison of peers within Florida. So these are also open pension plans and what they assume. And you see that the police and fire system is at 7%, which is that big red bar in the middle. It's by far the most common. The average is about 7.07%. So you all are right in the middle of what almost all other plans are doing. I will say that the movement has been to the left. It has been to lower discount rates rather than to increase them. But because interest rates have been higher for the last 18 months or so, some of that pressure to come down has relieved a little bit. So the state's assumption, FRS, is 6.7%, and they actually held steady this year. They didn't lower from 6.7%. This next slide is the same thing. There are a lot more bars here. Current day is that dark blue bar, but it's basically showing how things have changed over time, over the last 15 years. Back in 2008, the average assumption was like right at 8%, 7.97. These are the largest statewide systems in the country, places like FRS or CalPERS, Texas Teachers. Now you see that the average assumption is below 7% at 6.92. So that's a long way of saying you all are not off in the wilderness. Your 7% assumption is reasonable. The board is comfortable and monitors it regularly. It's just a reasonable benchmark to have. And the last slide is a summary of the demographic information that we use to prepare our evaluation. So we update this every year, collect new census on who's retired, who's become disabled, new firefighters who've joined the plan. And I want to point out a couple things. It's hard here without a pointer. But you'll notice the 2023 line has far more drop people than at any time in the past, right? That number doubled from 28 people on drop to 56. That's because of the fire ordinances. So many firefighters now had 20 years of service, they became immediately eligible to retire at once, and that's what happened. At the very beginning of 2022, in October, November, December, we had about 30 firefighters retire. That won't happen into the future, but it's important to keep an eye on because you notice that dark blue bar, what we consider actives, that's far lower than it usually is. And it's not that the city is employing fewer firefighters, it's just that more of them are on drop, which means that they'll leave service soon. Once those firefighters get rehired and replaced, a new class of firefighters, the costs will go up again. Because right now you have 56 people who aren't earning any benefits. They're just retired. So that's all. Happy to take any questions, but thank you all for your time and the opportunity to present.
Very good. Thank you for that presentation. I appreciate it. Does the commission have any questions? Questions, concerns? Commissioner Fournier.
I don't have a question, but I just want to say thank you. I think this was actually a really good explanation of all the different factors that are influencing this, from the market trends to the changes that the city policy has enacted, and even the history of it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question, just humor me here. So the 7% expected return, that's the expected return overall for the fund, so to speak. And I understand that, okay, we're right in the middle of where everybody else is, but just because you're in the herd doesn't mean the herd is correct and going the right direction.
Certainly.
That 7%, that, going up or down, that drastically impacts the city's contribution. Would that be accurate?
That's
Yes.
accurate. Yes, sir.
Thank you. So we're assuming that the pension fund will earn 7% going forward. And yet, the historical, if we just, I think you recall last year, the same question, the historical average of the stock market, we just took all those funds, bought an index fund, we'd be making a whole lot more than 7% on average on those funds, wouldn't we?
It's a great question. It's something that is asked of many boards. First, I need to give a caveat. I am not the plan's investment consultant, so I have to be very careful. Don't construe this as investment advice. That is an argument that is often made.
Is it correct?
I'll tell you why it's a good argument and why it might not be a good argument.
Okay.
I have to play both sides here. So the good argument is that, yes, historically, if we decided to just put 100% into an index fund, S&P 500, historically that's earned 10% roughly a year. We've also had explosive growth in the United States since World War II, when we became the leading superpower of the world. That is not a guarantee. Great Britain and the UK would have said the same thing 150 years ago. And so the argument there is, yeah, we've had a great run as a superpower. Will we still be a superpower for the next 50 years? The other thing is that we had a huge equity sell-off in 2022 and again in 2009. Things have built back up since then. And when we've had a couple of good years, like we've had since the tail end of 2022, equity valuations are higher than they have been historically. So you're paying more for the same stock. If the growth averages the same over time, we would expect lower annualized returns after that. So the other thing I will say, and this is an actuarial statement rather than an investment statement, it's a lot easier to adjust if your assumption is too low than if it's too high. Because if it's too high and you don't hit your mark, normally that means that you have bad years in the economy, which means that the city probably doesn't have as much money to cover any shortfall. Whereas if you have an assumption that's set too low and you earn the 10%, well, that's great. It's self-correcting. Your contributions in the future years are going to be lower. So I realize that was playing both sides of the coin, but hopefully that gives you some
That's okay.
perspective as to how I feel.
That's okay. I just thought I'd throw that out there. I did it last year too. That's okay. Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation. All right, that will take us up to our legislative update. Lobbyists will present a summary of the State of Florida 2024 legislative session, but with us today we have Senator Tina Polsky is with us today. She's going to be participating in this, I believe. Senator Polsky, welcome. Also, I believe State Representative Patricia Williams, is she here? Yes, there she is. She's here with us today, so they can give us an update on what's been happening, along with our lobbyists from Becker and from the Legis Group. We've got Yolanda Cash Jackson, we've got Latoya Shields, we've got Susan Goldstein. So who wants to? How about Senator Polsky? Lead us off. How's that?
That sounds good. Hi, everyone. My name is Tina Polsky. I am one of your 2 state senators in Pompano. I share the great city with Senator Pizzo, who has the eastern side, and I have the western side, along with other parts of Northwest Broward. Excuse me. And Boca Raton. So I wanted to report back on a couple of things. I'll start with some good news, or some appropriations projects that we were able to secure in the budget. Just so you know, the budget has not been signed by the governor yet. We are certainly hoping to avoid any vetoes, but we are very excited to get these projects in the budget. The first I did with Rep. Williams for Pompano Beach Northwest 16th Lane Stormwater Project Sub-Basin, and we received $500,000 for that important project. I also worked with Representative Gottlieb, who represents areas further south, on the Thomas D. Stephanus Boys and Girls Club Teen Center facility improvements, which is going to bring $200,000 to help restore that building. So that is some exciting news on that front. I wanted to thank you all for those of you who were able to travel to Tallahassee and for the advocacy efforts that you all put forward. It's really important to us when you come to visit us in Tallahassee and when you advocate and speak to chairs of committees and people in leadership about how important the projects are to our city. So thank you all for what you do. And thank you to the lobbyists who we couldn't do any of this without. They make it, they really, really help us get it done. So, big kudos to them. So I personally had a good session as far as it goes, passed 5 bills, which, I think are important bills that affect some newborn baby screenings, a virus called CMV, which is very dangerous to babies, and we increased the number of babies which will be able to get those screening and potentially save some babies' hearings. We did an important bill with homestead exemptions to help disabled veterans simplify the paperwork that they have so that they can qualify for their homestead exemption. We did an important bill. If someone is in bankruptcy, they are only allowed to keep $1,000 or their car, or to purchase a car. Well, what can you get for $1,000? That has not been changed in many years, so we were able to get that up to $5,000, which is still not enough, but is certainly better for someone to be able to get back on their feet and be able to get to work so they can get themselves out of debt. And there was a very large bill called Healthy Living, which is trying to expand healthcare options, bring more medical providers to our state. And I had a bill to help get more mental health counselors via scholarship programs and loan reimbursement. And so that bill that I had for the past 2 years was taken up in the much larger bill, which was a priority of the president of the Senate. So we knew that was going to pass. And so that bill the part about the mental health counselors is part of that bill that did pass, and I believe was signed by the governor. We are in the post-legislative session stage where we are waiting for the governor to sign bills, sign the budget, hopefully not put our projects on the veto list. And so that's where we are now. We've been back since early March. Hopefully we won't be going back for any kind of special session. And I just wanted to point out a couple of bills that I think you probably have your eyes on, which are preemption bills. And there's a lot. We pass over 200 bills every year. And I've been in office for 6 years. I've been representing you all for only the last 2 years in the Senate. But every year that I've been there, there have been bills that have attempted to take away the local rulemaking authority of your locally elected government. They try to do things to help you, to help your city, and the state very often steps in and says, nope, you're going to do it our way. And we want one rule across the whole state, and it's very unfortunate. So we call that preemption of home rule. And I do my best to fight against all of those and to vote, almost exclusively against those kinds of bills. Because I believe that you are duly elected to represent your people, and your particular area has its own unique issues, and that you should be able to pass the kind of bills that are important. And when we were talking about environmental issues, just so you know, your city commissioners have their hands tied in a lot of what they can do because the state government does not allow them to pass a lot of environmental regulation, which is really unfortunate. So that tradition continued this year. And we passed some bills that don't allow cities or counties to have local preferences in public works projects, don't allow you to create kind of regulations relating to heat for workers on public work projects, make it more difficult for your business impact statements to go through. Very importantly, which you're probably watching, are vacation rentals. And again, the state is trying to take more control over how you can regulate the use of vacation rentals, short-term rentals, Airbnb, et cetera. Every city wants to do it the way that's appropriate for them, and they've been trying this for the whole time that I've been in the legislature, and it either dies or the governor vetoes it. And there is talk that the governor may veto this because there's a lot of groups that are kind of at odds with each other over the outcome of this bill. So keep your eye on that. I voted against it, but it may pass. There were a couple of very large bills relating to energy, relating to the Department of Agriculture, and they kind of snuck in these anti-local government regulations. So, be on the lookout for that, and it's, unfortunate. So that is, my quick update, and I will hand it over to my colleague, who I'm going to miss very much, Rep. Patricia Williams.
Very good. Thank you, Senator Polsky. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Representative Williams.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Mayor, thank you for allowing me this space to speak. I'm not going to go over all the bills that we have presented and have passed or not, because Senator Polsky already gave you a rundown. City of Pompano do have things in the budget at this time, but like she stated, we do not control the veto pen. We also have bills that will actually be able to money in the budget that will help our senior citizens that was passed through me. We have bills that will do year-round schooling that will help children in our school system. We had a bill that was passed that will actually do year-round schooling for struggling students. We have bills that will actually give homeowners assistance if they are not vetoed. But the reason I stopped in today because this was my last session. So I want to say thank you to the mayor, the vice mayor, commissioners, city manager, city attorney for allowing me this space. Thank you for Ms. Yolanda Cash-Jackson, Toria, and her team that has been with me for the past 8 years. And for the city of Pompano, District 98, now District 92, now District 98. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be your voice for the past 8 years. You have given me the opportunity to be your voice in Tallahassee, to fight for you when you're not there to fight for yourself. A little girl from Pompano, standing on the platform and on the backs of my ancestors. The city of Pompano gave me that opportunity. And I don't want anyone to think that I took this very lightly. You gave me this opportunity, and my voice was your vote, and my vote was your vote. When I walk away as of November, I can actually state every vote that I cast was what's best for the people that I serve. Every fault that I had to fight was what's best for the people I serve. And you gave me that opportunity, so I stopped in today to just say thank you for one of my cities that gave me this opportunity.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. Well, Representative Williams, thank you so much for what you have done, and I can honestly say that your voice has made a difference in the city of Pompano Beach, and thank you for your service, and I'm sure it's not done yet. But thank you for your service as our state representative, and look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you so much. Ms. Jackson, care to continue on? I know it's a hard act to follow. I mean, it's...
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, and I'm going to ask Susan to come up with me, if she would. And LaToya Shields, if she would come. We don't have a lot more to say, except to say thank you also. We've given you a packet, and that has a comprehensive list of those bills that we've tracked. Want to say thank you to the manager and the manager's staff, Earl, I don't know, where's Earl? Earl Bosworth. You guys, we talk more often than you know, and he's giving us direction from you. And so we want to thank you for that opportunity. It's already been said, you got money, we're waiting on the governor to approve it. We have no reason to think that he won't. And just want to also recognize Jalea Wilder, who's in the audience, who's also a part of the Becker team. Susan, do you have anything else you want to add?
Just an honor to represent the city.
And then certainly thank you to the senator and our representatives. We do have the best. I'm not going to lie. We do have the best. We're going to miss Representative Williams, but thank you for the opportunity. And this time, if you have any questions, we'll be glad to answer them.
Very good. Thank you for that. So any questions, comments from the commission? Seeing none. Thank you all so much for what you do. And Representative Williams, once again, thank you for your service. I'm sure we will see you again in some form or fashion.
If I may, just because it's Representative Williams' last meeting, if y'all would let her come up and take a picture.
Of course. Please do. Yes, yes, yes. Please do. All right, that takes us up to audience to be heard. Whoop. Oh, sorry about that. You're right. Presentation of the results of the City of Pompano Beach audit of the annual comprehensive financial report and schedules of expenditures of federal awards and state financial assistance for the fiscal year ended September 30, 2023 by Keith McCullough, Independent Certified Public Accountants. Alice, Ms. Furtado, good afternoon.
We had a lot of presentation.
Yes, we do.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Alison Furtado, Finance Director. The Florida Statute, Chapter 218.39, requires the city to perform an annual financial audit, which the Finance Department prepare annually each year. Today, we have our auditors from Keith McCullough, Mr. Stephen Emery, and Mr. Michael Barnett to communicate the results of the audit. But before they present, I would like to extend a great appreciation to my staff who assist in preparing our financial statement, and also to acknowledge that this is our 12th year of no financial findings, which we are very proud of, as well as we were awarded from the GFOA the 2022 Certificate of Achievement of Excellence of Financial Reporting. So this is another thing that is it's a prestige award for all cities who prepare financial statements, and we have received this for 2022 financial statement.
Congratulations, yes.
So with that said, I would like to now present Mr. Stephen Emery from Keith McCullough to present the results. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you, Allison. Good afternoon, everybody. First, I'd like to extend my appreciation for the opportunity to present the annual comprehensive financial report of the City of Pompano Beach for the year ended September 30th, 2023. The award that Ms. Furtado just held up to you all, that was for the year ended September 30th, 2022. We were notified in 2023 that you all did receive that award. We evaluated the financial report for 2023. We believe that it includes all the criteria that you will need to receive that award yet again. So you should be receiving that later this year. And I don't want anyone to take that lightly, because many municipalities do not strive to obtain that achievement because they don't think that they're going to get it, because it's very difficult to achieve. So the financial report that you're looking at is a different type of financial report. It puts you all really in a different class that gets evaluated under that scope. So they do go, in addition to our firm reviewing it for accuracy, for material accuracies, it goes through a board of folks that evaluate them to ensure that they do meet that level of criteria. So we do believe that you're going to receive that honor yet again. But now I'm going to go ahead and describe our report. So we issued an unmodified opinion. That's the highest level of opinion that an auditor can express. It means that we did not identify any material misstatements in the financial statements that you had in front of you. And it also states that we conducted our audit in accordance with government auditing standards, which you all, of course, required to undergo that type of an audit. So we also have some compliance reports in the back of the financial statements. And so the first of those is our report in accordance with government auditing standards. So that report covers two very vital components of the city. It's your internal control over financial reporting, and then it's also your compliance with laws, regulations, grants, and things of that nature. And that's a really important component, because the most important thing that we think about in terms of grant funding is we don't want any misspending to occur, and thus you know the risk is you may have to pay the money back if it's misspent. So we do test your grants. We evaluated that. We didn't have any paybacks this year, which would have cost the city valuable funds. Another report that we did issue was when you receive a certain level of federal and or state grant funding, you have to have what's called a single audit. So we issued single audit reports this year. So that's kind of like a microscopic audit of those particular grants. We didn't identify any matters of significant deficiencies or material weaknesses of internal controls as they relate to the particular compliance requirements for those grant funds. We didn't identify any misspent funds for those particular grant funds either. So those are clean reports from us all around. So it would be an audit report. All of our audit reports do not have any blemishes. So I'd like to congratulate your finance department for enabling us to issue such reports, and we really did appreciate the opportunity to work with them this year. Next, I'd like to cover some very high-level financial highlights for the city for the year ended September 30th, 2023. So the first is budgetary compliance. Of course, the finance department and yourselves put a great deal of effort in putting the budget together. So an important thing that we look at is budgetary compliance. So there were no expenditures that exceeded what you all had planned on expending, and so that's one thing I'd like to highlight. It's certainly not the case all the time for different municipalities that we see across the state. Next is your pension plans. What Mr. Watts described a few moments ago, each year there's contribution limits that are set that the city is required to contribute in order to make sure your plans are actuarially sound and properly funded. All of those contributions were made timely, and they were made in accordance with what the actuaries determined would be appropriate. And then also your long-term debt. All principal and interest payments were made timely, and all financial covenants required by those bondholders were met by the city. So the indicator of good financial health. Also, management did select all of the accounting policies that were used in accounting for the different transactions and balances of the city for the year. We evaluated all those. We determined that they are compliant with GASB and GAAP. And those are all described in Note 1 to the basic financial statements. Management did have a little bit of an additional burden this year because GASB, Governmental Accounting Standards Board, that determines all the standards that must be implemented, they came out with a big new standard this year called GASB 96. It's very similar to the GASB 87 lease standard that I described to you all last year. So it's a little bit of a heavy lift for the finance department to not only do all their regular jobs, then they have to stay on top of the new standards and figure out how to implement that and incorporate that into your financial statements. So they did do an excellent job of doing that. We evaluated all the inputs that went into implementing that standard, and we determined that everything was materially accurate in how they implemented that standard. We also did not have any disagreements with management while we were conducting our audit, and we were not thwarted in completing our audit procedures in any way. So very clean reports all around, and at this point I'd like to open up the floor to any questions that you all may have.
Very good. Thank you for that, and appreciate the report. Does the Commission have any questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and congratulations to our entire, Mr. Harrison, congratulations to you and your entire staff. Great accomplishment once again. Ms. Furtado, do you know how many years in a row we've had clean opinions? A lot.
It's been a lot, yes, but 12 years, no findings, no financial findings. So we have had unmodified opinions over the years, but no financial findings for the past 12 years.
Very good. That's excellent, Ken. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. You know, I mean, a lot of people, they don't think much about it, but basically, I mean, yeah, that's a big deal because not every city can claim that. You guys are doing, this is the way it's supposed to be done, but unusually, that's not usually the case in a lot of places. And thank you so much for what you do. And thank you, sir, for the work that you've done and keep us all in straight and narrow. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very good. All right. Now, Mr. Harrison, we're going to move on to audience to be heard. Kervin, we got anybody signed up?
Yes, Mayor, we have 11 speakers.
Very, very good. Let's see if we can get through them in half an hour.
Okay. First speaker, Reverend Luster, followed by Don Smith, followed by Ed Phillips.
There we go. All right. Just name and address for the record.
Thank you. Excuse me for sitting down.
That's all right.
My name is Reverend Marguerite Luster. I live at 632 Northwest 20th Court, Pompano Beach, Florida.
Bring that real close to your mouth, Miss Luster. Real close.
What do you say? Okay, can you hear me better now?
Better. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, what I'm down here about is I've lived in my house 58 years. This will be the 59th. A man moved in about 5 years ago. Well, we started noticing strange things. My garbage can moving, stuff poured on my trees, all of this. Well, he decided that my land belongs to him. I called Mario. I called code enforcement and asked them to, intervene and come out. So they came. But then Chuck Rizzio came. I went through the whole 9 yards. I went all the way to planning and zoning. They came out and they looked at it. Mario had told me, look like you might owe him something. I said, I don't owe him nothing, Mario. There's the mark on the pole that the surveyors put up there. That is where his land is. He had a chain link fence in the back. The previous owner, they put it up, the original owner. Now, what happened where the four fence meet? They meet and they came on the right line. But the original owners, we had left a crack so that our children could walk between and go from one another's house. Okay, then we had a service pole. They're gonna try to use the service pole that was in there. Y'all might not know what that is. Then after that, he came over, he sent people in my yard. I told him, the man knows this is my yard, please don't come over here. Then he came to the city. He said the city gave him permission to take his feet, his fence, and move it over on my land. He tore up some trees in my flower bed that can't be replaced. He tore up my flower bed. He put the fence in. It's so close, my yard man can't even ride the lawnmower through there. Friday morning, I have some little great-grandboys. They 4 and 5, 4 and 7, I think, whatever they are. But anyway, they play with the basketball because the goal is by my driveway. They throw the football. He sent the police to my house. All the time he's sending the police to my house. He sent him there Friday morning and talking about go over there and I guess tell them I arrest them. I don't know what he wanted them to do to my little 7-year-old grandchild. He is really getting to be where we're afraid to even be out there because we don't know what he's going to do. But I'm asking you, if somebody from Mario's office or somebody will come out there and do the correct measurement. I try to tell planning and zoning what they sent to me. That was not. They talking about I was to the road. Then they said I was to the water beat. I need to go 15 feet back. I had put up a chain link fence. Didn't know you couldn't have that. So the city made me take the chain link fence down. Then I went to get a consultant about what I should do. That was $100 an hour to talk to the lawyer. My thing is, I'm out of money, and I'm not no match for him. Then they started calling me names and all that kind of stuff. I really feel for my life. All I want is for them to come out there and measure, give me my 60 feet back across my front and tell that man to put his fence on his property. But I'm tired of him. He got a little blue light that comes on every time we come out the door. And it just like recorded us, and my daughter told me, it's illegal for you to be doing that. They were standing by the sidewalk, and the lady hollered, what are you doing? So if he take his fence, it's only about a foot, but he took it down and moved it about a foot, and just about a half on my land. Now my garbage cans are just about on my utility room. I have pictures, but I don't have them pulled off there on my phone.
Okay.
I'm asking y'all, please help me to get my plan back.
Oh, okay. Ms. Lester, what we're going to do, Mr. Harrison, could you have, I guess Mario's been involved, can you have some folks look into this and let us know what's going on with this? Because, yeah, she's lived there all of her life. And see what's going on and see what we can do to help and let us, all of us up here know so we can know what's going on.
Yes, sir.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you so much. We'll look into it and see what we can figure out. Of course, it's yeah, well, we'll have to look at it. Thank you, Ms. Lester. Appreciate it. Next speaker.
Don Smith, followed by Ed Phillips.
Good afternoon, sir. Just name and address.
Good afternoon. Don Smith, 170 Southeast 13th. 72, been here for 36 years, live on a cul-de-sac on the water. Had the misfortune of a neighbor letting a gal move in with 5 felonies. She pulled a gun on Elena. Of course, we called the police, and since we called the police, she's gone vengeful. She called the building department and had them come out. We have a Seminole tiki, one like 8 others on the block, and it's in the 25-foot site triangle, which requires a variance, which of course I'm not going to get since I'm in a war with the neighbor next door. And it's they've now hauled me into the magistrate thing for the one violation went to 4, which I find it really amazing that everyone I listen to, the magistrate takes 1 or 2 violations and amazingly gets 4. So my question to you is, have you somehow approved to try to get the magistrate to get these fees for violations to raise money for the city? I mean, is that the city's policy?
No, sir. Actually, the special magistrate is a separate arm. I mean, he's.
I'm aghast at what's going on with the situation, and I'd like some help from the city council to figure out what I can do about this, because there's no way to fix this. I'm not going to take the thing down, and can't get a variance. It's a impasse.
Okay. Well, Mr. Berman, I know that your office represents the city at the special magistrate, and but you've talked to the building department about the situation. I mean, it's
they just you take it down. There's 8 more on the block that go down there everywhere. It's harder to find a place that doesn't have something in the site triangle than does. It's just because she signed. She doesn't even own the property. The guy lets her live there.
Well, I guess Mr. Berman.
We'll meet with code enforcement and see if there's anything that can be done about it. The problem with the tiki huts is the statute says if it's made by Native Americans, doesn't need a permit. That's an exemption. But they're always placed in people's yards, either in site triangles or in setback violations, or once they put electricity or water, then they come under the building code. So we've over the years have found a lot of these in people's backyards. Whether there's a solution here or not, remains to be seen, but first I've heard about it. I'm happy to talk with Mr. Sotolongo, and I assume he has the gentleman's information and the address. So we'll see if there's anything we can do. We'll try and deal with it in as civil a manner as possible and try and resolve the issue. I understand the complaint. We don't do this lightly, but
right.
If it's a violation, it's a violation. We'll take a look.
And if I know a variance, you can go for a variance, but yeah, if it doesn't meet
possibility because you have to get the neighbors to sign off on it, and when we're in a war, they're not going to sign off. So
yeah, I hear you. Yeah, Mr. Sotolongo, you've got his information, so you can liaise with the city attorney's office, and somebody will get with you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Yep. Oh, Vice Mayor.
Could I maybe make a request for staff and city attorney's office? The tiki hut violation situation, I know a lot of it is with the building code of Florida, and is a lot of the tiki hut and cheeky hut violations or, things, they come up often. And so my request would be is if staff and city attorney's office could look at what, any suggestions on how the state could even alter their codes and oversight on these things to make it more livable for residents, that we could suggest up to Tallahassee to try and see if they could make some changes. Again, this is, I think, the third one this year that's come to my attention directly now, that a lot of them seem to be, actually fourth, either one couldn't be built because of the way the setbacks are, and a lot of the times, especially on water, even though the footage is considered an obstruction, it's in common sense world, when you're looking at the difference between a cheeky hut or a boat docked in the water, it's not reality to the normal person. So if we could just look at somehow trying to improve what the rules are behind these, I think that could be a benefit to City of Pompano residents and probably most of Florida. So that would be my request if we could do that.
Okay.
Certainly do that. Get back to you.
Very good. Next speaker.
Please don't start that thing until I start talking. Mayor, Commissioners, my name is Ed Phillips. I currently reside at 384 Northwest 19th Street. I'm going to try to be as quick as I can on this. I have 3 items that are of importance to me. On Sunday, I had an opportunity to try to scan all the information and documents that we have for the Tiger Trail Festival going forward, an event that we need to report to anyone or anyone who wants some information. In the process, I'm going to give this to you, Mayor. I looked again at this contract that the Tiger Trail Festival has to sign in order to get money, and we can't get money unless we sign this contract. And I want you to know that I think, first of all city staff that have helped us in the past at the Tiger Trail Festival have done an outstanding job. But I want you to know this particular contract is ridiculous to the Tiger Trail Festival and what they try to do. When we started out, we would get 1 page about our agreement to be in partnership with the city. If you look at this contract right here, and I had to sign it or else we wouldn't have got the money, they're almost asking for blood. They ask for a workers' comp exempt form. I'm in the insurance business. That was ridiculous. So I'm gonna give this to you just to peruse because there's a couple other things I want to talk about.
Okay.
The other 2 is street paving. In the Northwest area, Mayor, there used to be, and I'm sure there is, some schedule for street paving, but we don't seem to have street paving in a lot of parts of the Northwest area. I'd like for the city to look into that, including in some of your areas, Barry, because I'm an insurance agent, I'm all over the place, in particular Esquire Lake. So I'd like for you to look into that. And as I close, because I'm looking at this clock down here bugging me, as you may or may not know, a lot of cities are looking at how they can help cemeteries, in particular African-American cemeteries. I would like for this particular city to find ways to assist the new Westview Cemetery Board, if at all possible, because if other cities can look into helping preserve righteousness and ancestral history of the city of Pompano, of other cities, the city of Pompano has an obligation, whether they may not like it or not, to help. If we can do McNabb House, if we can figure out Sample McDougal House, if we can figure out how to help Historical Society, if we can figure out how to help the marketing place, then we should be able to figure out how to help Westview Cemetery. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Just for the record, I'd like to point out that since 1998, I've been reaching out to the cemetery board trying to figure out a way to do just that, to change the conditions out there. Thank you. Next speaker.
Angelica Asma, followed by Matthew Herman, followed by Roderick Phillips, followed by Jackie Moreland. Angelica Asma. Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Angelica Isma, address 101 Northwest 15th Place, Pompano Beach, Florida. I just wanted to say that I'm a local business executive here in a company called Tip Services, as well as a upcoming company, nonprofit organization, Path to Wellness. First and foremost, I would like to thank the mayor, the commissioners, and the staff for all the great work within our community. I just simply wanted to introduce myself and just express my gratitude, and just to say that, you know, if any help is needed within my community, I have my contact information on hand and available. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate you coming forward. Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Matthew Herman.
Good afternoon, Matthew Herman, 121 Northeast 8th Street. Thank you, Allison, for everything you've done. They're out there working on our roads. One thing I would like to point out is when you are inspecting these roads, please pay attention to the grading from road to home. We had to spend almost $15,000 to have our home put on jacks and beams because it sank over 3 inches from the water runoff from the road. Rhonda, this is your district. It is. And we'd love to see you out there more. And we'd love to see all of you guys come to the Historical Society events, the McDougal House events. Their anniversary is coming up on the 17th. We'd love to see you all there. Another thing is the corner of 1st and 2nd Avenue, that needs to be a 4-way stop. Traffic is bypassing because of Atlantic Boulevard construction. The locals are having a hard time. So the rest of 2nd Avenue is all 4-way stops. I look like this say, I'm out every morning picking up trash, helping my neighbors. I was already out this morning helping an elderly neighbor power wash his house. So I'm always out there. My home is a safe place. Anybody ever needs anything when they're in my area, feel free to stop at my house and knock, no matter what it is. I'm here for you. I am a community activist, LGBTQIA+ activist, and I recently heard that there's funding coming up at the Cultural Center. There are some locals that are trying to call part of the beach Stonewall Beach, and I think that we have enough of the individuality is good, but we need to come together, and I would like to come up with a design and a plan to name the beach, at least the north side or something, Unity Beach, where we all celebrate our differences together with Florida's warmest welcome. On that, I would like to get with Ty from the Cultural Arts Center and create a cultural unity event, not a pride, but a cultural unity event held in old downtown Pompano.
Okay. Well, very good. Appreciate all your efforts. Thank you, sir. Yes. Very good. Thank you. Next speaker.
Roderick Phillips, followed by Jackie Moreland.
Roderick Phillips, 2620 Northwest 10th Street, Pompano Beach, Florida. I would like to ask the mayor, city manager, or either the city attorney for a hard copy of the city budget. I'm getting interested and want to know where the money is going. And I would like me and my crew, the people that's in my committee, we would like to get a hard copy of the city budget and a hard copy of the Northwest CRA budget. We need to find out where the money's going, because some places that the monies are going is not coming to where it's needed. Mayor, I look on TV every day, commissioners, and I see that we rescuing dogs, we rescuing cats, we even rescuing pelicans. We rescuing alligators. Yeah, we even rescuing fish. But we not rescuing people. We're not rescuing people. More needs to be done BSO need to step up on their game with the homeless. Over by FedEx, there's a homeless camp that is horrible. The stench, you can smell the stench coming from this homeless camp miles away. And then on the corner of 2nd Street and Power Line Road, we have a third world where BSO are allowing, well, they can't do, apparently they can only arrest you if you commit the crime. But it seems like it's a crime that we have a third world, looking like a third world country on the corner of 2nd Street and Power Line Road. We got buggies, we got mattresses, we got open crack smoking, we got beds. It's horrible. It's horrible. I'm saying, and District 4, on that same street, that entire street is a drug street. And it seemed like a third world when you ride through there, and it's impossible that people could actually ride by there and we have the ability to do something, and we're not doing anything about it. Mayor, and I also want to talk about I know I don't have enough time, but I want to talk about the election. We got an election coming up, and what's going on is that early voting, where people are utilizing the early voting to their benefits, it has to stop where candidates can go out and pick up early voting ballots. That is illegal, and governor decided to sign a bill with Florida law allows a person designated by voters to return absentee ballots. You can't go out as a candidate and pick up absentee ballots. I'm not calling no name, but what I want to say is the shoe fits, wear it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Mr. Phillips, if you'd like a copy of the budget, you can do a public records request through the clerk's office, but also the budgets are all available online if you'd prefer to do it that way. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Next speaker, Ms. Moreland.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, and all the commissioners, my Commissioner Beverly, Commissioner Perkins. I emailed you several times about the pictures in the hallway. Commissioner Fortner, she emailed me back, and I want to thank Mr. Tabin for calling me, and we had a great conversation, and he did admit to me that the pictures do lack diversity. I emailed all of you, and I haven't heard back from anyone but Mr. Tabin. He called me, and my mayor, my commissioner, and I just wanted to know.
Sorry, Ms. Moore, you didn't get mine?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't get it. But I do want to thank Mr. Tabin, and I did hear from City Manager Mr. Harrison. But however, what Mr. Harrison sent to me from the Pompano Beach Historical Society, this 12-page report, I think it confirmed what I was saying. It lacked even more diversity. Number one, the committee lacks diversity. So if you're going to have diversity in your city and people who are compiling it as a history of Pompano, there needs to be diversity on that committee. And I looked at the proposed budget of $88,900, and it's filled with things that do not reflect the diversity of Pompano. It lacks diversity from the board, from the staff, the programs, and the activities. And one of the main things that the mission of this historical, Pompano Beach Historical Society, it says to collect and preserve the record history of Pompano to ensure visibility to key events of our city's history through regularly scheduled programs, education opportunities, and to actively engage in cataloging the museum and ever-growing collection of the entire city. And that's just not a reflection of what has been done. And when I looked back, Mr. when Mr. Harrison sent me this report, it mentioned the Allied in the report once. I think the Allied Cultural Arts Center was mentioned in the report once. So I want to know from you, and you said you emailed me back, what are we going to do to change that? Even with my researching on the phone, there's a Reverend Mack from the 1930s to the 1940s that was a black minister that started the Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church in Pompano, and there's a historical pictures, over 200 pictures of him and African Americans in the city of Pompano that's chronologically dialogued and with our history. So if we're going to encompass the city as a city with diversity, we need to encompass everybody that's in the city. So I definitely want to hear what you have to say and how we're going to handle that. And I do thank Mr. Tabin for calling me, and we're going to get together. He said he would get together with persons from the committee, and form a committee. And maybe we do need a committee for diversity in this city when we're looking at this city as a whole.
Very good.
So I'd like to have your feedback.
Very good. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You're going to answer now?
No, not right now. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just one more thing. I find it strange that you answered this gentleman's questions about his tiki house or whatever, but you don't have anything for me that you can say to what I just said?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner Perkins.
I remember the last meeting when Ms. Moreland was here, she did state the pictures on the wall as you enter into the chambers were not diverse. And I was told by the city manager that I think Cultural Arts or TIE is working on it. In the meantime, I think the wall or the pictures on the wall should come down. It should be removed until you can redo the entire project or whatever the pictures are supposed to be pertaining to history. Now, I understand that you're working on it, but in the meantime, take it down, remove it, until you can replace it where there's diversity on the wall as you enter into the chambers. Thank you.
Good suggestion. Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, Mr. Moss. Commissioner Moss.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out to the audience who may be unaware of it, the Pompano Beach Historical Society is not an arm of the city of Pompano Beach. It's a private group that is not controlled by the city. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next speaker.
Mary Phillips, followed by Vicente Thrower, followed by David Hall.
Very good.
Mary Phillips, 384 Northwest 19th Street, Pompano Beach, Florida, 33060. I just basically want to talk about the grant process that the city of Pompano Beach has. I do have an issue with the fact that if you apply for a grant and you're a nonprofit in this community, and that they require that you cannot use any of the grant funds to secure a facility to do your program, I think that needs to change. That doesn't help small nonprofit groups. The fact that they might have a program for the homeless or a program for children or a program for senior citizens, and now they can't use any of the grant money that they've applied for to secure a facility to do their program. I don't think that's a good idea, and I think that needs to change with that grant process. Because the last time I went and reviewed it, that was something that they did not allow. Okay. My other question is, I want to know where the money's coming from. Because if it's coming from community development block grant monies, I can't use that money for my nonprofit. So I want to know, is it a combination of city money and HUD money? That's a question I want answered right now.
Ms. Phillips, we don't have the answer to that right now. You can get with staff afterwards, and I'm sure.
But staff wouldn't have to know where that money's coming from that they have for grants? Because I was told the last time they expanded it to $300,000 from what it was previously. And the grant process is right around the corner. That's why I kind of want to know before I go through the process of submitting a request for the funding. Because my company, my organization, can't get community development block grant funds for our projects. So that's something that I would like to know as soon as possible. And actually, the community should know this. Local community-based groups should know this. I do have a lot of programs I'm bringing forward this year. Generational wealth building is one of them. We have a TCD program, which is Teens Chasing Dreams, that we're doing right now. It's a free after-school program for high school students. And I'm very pleased that the Marriott hosted our kids. We had 14 kids. They hosted them for an etiquette class. And Top Golf is going to host them and give them a talk on careers with Top Golf. So it's a very good program. But I can't run the program through Community Development Block Grant because of the way they're structured. They have a lot of restrictions on it. My other thing, and then we're going to do a pop-up shop on July 27th, but another thing is that light on Cypress and First Baptist. People are still blocking that intersection. I know there's a sign there, but I think they take that sign for a joke, because they're still blocking it. I think you should put a camera up there, and those people that block it, you need to go ahead and send them a ticket. Let them pay that $165 for blocking that intersection over there, because it's very dangerous, okay? So, but that's basically all I have, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Ms. Phillips, if you wanted to get with some of the staff members over here, I'm sure they can answer your question about the funding. You can yeah, there's Ms. Arietta Diamante, she just raised her hand. You can ask with one of them. I'm sure they can help you get the information you need. Mr. Thrower, just name and address for the record, sir.
Vincente Thrower, Pompano Beach. Mayor, I want to start by thanking the mayor and the city manager and commission on jumping on this crime wave that we've been having in the Northwest area. It is, has been reported that they caught the people that were involved with the killing. I'm assuming that the full commission had received that notification, right? And so there, Mayor, I'm hoping that we will make sure that we encourage our state attorney's office to a follow through with the law, because nobody should be mourning the death of a 16-year-old and others in our neighborhood. So on top of, Mayor, I know the manager said last time that, hey, sometimes we come up here and just always put it all on you all. So that's why when it's something good happen, I come and say something good happened. But we still have a lot of more people and victims out there who have still unsolved cases, like the young man who got killed over at Apollo Park a couple years ago. So I'm hoping that BSO will look into some of those older cases, like the young lady who got killed in Collier City on that last road over by the Popeyes. So if we can put pressure to still look into these victims and talk to their families. These victims' families deserve to at least be updated on the progress and what is happening with their cases. That being said, Mayor, one of your speakers brought up budget, and I heard somebody say budget and talk about a whole bunch of money and stuff. I often wonder, do we ask those who are soliciting money from the city to provide us the background of what they have done with their budget and to show us what they're doing with their money? So do we get that, Mayor? Like from the Tiger Trail and everybody, do we know what they did with their money?
Yes.
And so, does it match what we would desire of them? And how come so many of them are not self-sustaining after 15 and 20 years? To me, at some point, an organization should be self-sustaining. That's just my personal opinion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Mayor,
David Hall.
Commissioner Perkins.
yes,
I'm sorry. Commissioner.
Mr. Thorough brought up about the crime in the area, and I wanted to state that the sheriff will be meeting in the Northwest community on Tuesday, April 16th at 5:30 at the EPAT Larkin Center for us to ask questions, and we're expecting answers about some of the shootings or gun violence that we've had, in the community. And one thing I'm really concerned about now is whether or not we have gangs in the area of the Northwest area. So the sheriff will be here to speak with the city on Tuesday, April 16th, 5:30 at the EPAT Larkin Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next speaker.
What I wanted to say was addressed, so
Mr. Kervin, any further speakers?
One more speaker, Pat Anderson.
Pat Anderson, very good. Please come forward. Name and address for the record. And please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
I'm late. I was stuck in Atlantic Boulevard. This is Pat Russell Anderson, and I live in beautiful Pompano Beach by the Pink Church, which is very nice. And I'm going to read what I have to say, or else I'm going to miss something. I want you to know that I am also an artist for the National Wildlife Federation, using the leaf borrows outdoors, plein air, as I did for 5 years in the municipal parks in Fort Lauderdale and Pompano Beach. I've worked with Mark Boudreau. I really want to work with you again. I've been asked to work in Lighthouse Point in their development by Glenna, but I told her I have a lawsuit going on and I don't want to talk about it right now. So I want to bring you to this lawsuit, and it's very important for you to know. My code citation cost me $300,000 to break up because there's no truth about what happened. No one is talking about the smash. And why my place was destroyed was because it was left alone for almost 3 years, unrepaired by Coleman. And there were ghost reports. And then when I finally got on August 8th, 2018, it was announced by Army Corps of Engineers that they had bailed over the seabed by at least 12 feet, and I am working with solely Army Corps of Engineers. So I came across a lot of stuff, and what has happened is there's a house next door to me that has had its zip code changed to Lighthouse Point. It's the only piece in Lighthouse Point with a Pompano address, using Pompano garbage cans. And it brings to a point where my level plan is 2 cities that we're talking about. 2 cities have building departments, and 2 cities have codes. And what has happened is this AI that I talked about, this multiple listing, well, these 2 cities are controlled by Chris Ema, who changed the zip codes. And he changed the zip code next door to me to Pompano Beach. And they voided my brand new, well, all the overlays in the Broward County property appraisers are askew. And we went to a value adjustments board, and they do not even acknowledge that it's two boards. And Michael Peasy is the one that we've got to watch, because he's the one who's going to change Pompano like Miami is with Joe Carollo and the 60-some-odd million that they got for code harassment. I've had code harassment, selective code harassment, unwritten code harassment. No one has any admitting that it was a smash.
Sure.
Of course it was a smash. How do you think it got broken?
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Thank you.
And this Peasy guy, I'm going to have I have a folder for each one of you. We've got to keep him out of here, or he's going to change Pompano into Miami.
Very good. Thank you,
We
ma'am.
can't have it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, that concludes the audience to be heard.
Very good. Thank you for that. All right. That's great. That takes us up to our consent agenda. Is there a motion approving items 1 through 3?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. That takes us up to our regular agenda. Item number 4 is quasi-judicial in nature. Mr. Berman will discuss the procedures we will use. Mr. Berman.
Thank you, Mayor. If anyone wishes to testify on item number 4, they have to be sworn in and may be subject to cross-examination by the City Commission or by interested parties. Individuals addressing the commission should state their name and whether they've been sworn. City staff will make its presentation first, followed by the applicant or anyone else who wishes to testify. Following the concluding remarks of the applicant, the hearing will conclude and the commission will make its consideration. All those who wish to testify on item number 4, please stand at this time, raise your right hand, and the city clerk will swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence or testimony that you're going to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Very good. Item number 4 is a second reading of an ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, abandoning a portion of a 12-foot wide utility easement located on the west side of Northeast First Avenue and east of the I-95 Sample Road off-ramp, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. Good afternoon, Ms. Dolan.
Thank you, Mayor, Commission, Jean Dolan, Development Services. This is the second reading of the request to abandon a 12-foot wide utility easement on a triangular parcel remaining after construction of I-95. There have been no changes since first reading. Staff recommends approval, and I'm available if you have any additional questions.
Very good. Thank you for that. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion, questions, concerns. Seeing none, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier?
Yes.
Commissioner Moss?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Seegerson-Eaton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee?
Yes.
Mayor Harden?
Yes, that ends our quasi-judicial proceedings. Item number 5 is a resolution.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, approving and authorizing the proper city officials to execute change order number 1 in the amount of $352,708.56 pursuant to the agreement between the City of Pompano Beach and Burkhardt Construction, Inc. for undergrounding revision to eliminate newly set side street utility poles per Florida Power and Light's revised plan at the intersection of A1A and Northeast 16th Street, providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. Good afternoon, Mr. Sravoulis.
Good afternoon, Mayor Commission. John Sravoulis, City Engineer. This is related to the GEO Bond A1A Streetscape Project. As you may know, the city is currently undergrounding overhead utilities from Terramar to the inlet along A1A. FPL also had a hardening project that overlapped with our undergrounding project. As a result, we ended up with a congestion of utility poles at the corner of 16th and A1A. So in order to keep the overall intent of the aesthetics, we need to have those poles removed. So the change order before you includes FPL design, redesign, materials, equipment, contractors' labor, Burkhardt's oversight, and it's 6% of the undergrounding contract. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for that. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion, questions, concerns. Commissioner Fournier.
Just a quick question. Is FPL sharing the cost of this with us, or are we, the $352,000 is the full cost?
That's full cost to us.
So they installed those concrete poles, a different part of FPL installed the concrete poles, but they're not working with us to remove them.
That's correct. They're hardening division.
Right, but we're undergrounding. Okay.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Further commission discussion? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier?
Yes.
Commissioner Moss?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Seegerson-Eaton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee?
Yes.
Mayor Harden?
Yes. Item 6 is a second reading of an ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, approving and authorizing the proper city officials to execute a lease agreement between the City of Pompano Beach and the Boys and Girls Clubs of Broward County, Inc., providing for severability, providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. Good afternoon, Mr. Boudreau.
Good afternoon, Mark Boudreau, Recreation Director. There are no changes since the first reading.
Very good. Thank you for that. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier?
Yes.
Commissioner Moss?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Seegerson-Eaton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee?
Yes.
Mayor Harden?
Yes. Item 7 is the first reading of an ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, approving and authorizing the proper city officials to execute a First Amendment to the service contract for post-disaster emergency catering services between the City of Pompano Beach and Piccadilly Holdings Restaurants, LLC, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. Good afternoon, Mr. Boudreau.
Good afternoon, Mark Boudreau, Recreation Director. So back in 2019, we put out RFP E-09-18, post-disaster emergency catering services for first responders and emergency workers only. So this was never intended to provide meals to the public, but again, just first responders and emergency personnel in case there was any confusion on what this actually was for. So With that said, it's estimated to serve up to 1,000 people per meal, up to 3 meals per day on a daily basis for up to a week or more if needed. It's a local company that'll be providing the service, and in your backup, Exhibit A shows their fees, and also there's an addendum which compares 2019 fees to 2024 fees. That concludes my statement.
Very good. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? His name and address for the record.
Mayor, Commissioners, City Staff, Ed Phillips, 384 Northwest 19th Street. You know, sometimes it's nice for me to get up here, and it's a lighthearted kind of situation rather than I have to always be so serious. In particular, I think some folks who act as lobbyists probably should register as lobbyists, but that's another story. Mayor, I think this is wonderful. I think this is excellent. Can we direct somebody to ask Piccadilly to actually open up a facility here so we can enjoy some of this food also?
Well,
thank you very much.
Thank you. We can always encourage them to expand their business. Absolutely. Further input from the public? Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion, questions, concerns. Commissioner Perkins.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. It says here this is a Delaware corporation and the business is located in Texas. Are they located locally here in Pompano?
Yes, so their reach is Florida, Alabama, and Virginia. So they do and will provide service in Florida.
Do we have an estimated cost for feeding 1,000 people 3 times a day? I know we don't know how long, but is there an estimated cost that you?
Yeah, in that Exhibit A it reflects all of their costs.
Okay.
I have no idea what the extent of the damage could be and if and when we would reach out to them. But that cost breakdown is there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Very good. Further commission, Vice Mayor.
I mean, I was looking at the cost breakdown, and just $40.47 a person for breakfast alone. That's how this is broken up, correct? Each meal. $42.67 for lunch, $54.45 for dinner, water bottles at $3.68 per bottle.
So that's DRC, ma'am. Piccadilly that's not the correct one.
Is it not the correct one?
That's the companion item, DRC, the next item.
Oh, I apologize. I will bring it up then.
It's okay.
Very good. Further, Commissioner Fournier.
It does bring up a good point, which you can ask here or in the next item, but Piccadilly is $15 for breakfast, and then we just saw this, it's $40. So why is there such a huge price difference between these two?
That's easily explainable. They're coming from out of state. So depending on the severity of the disaster here locally, they would be paying $10 or $15 for breakfast. Coming from out of state, they are going to completely mobilize in this area. That means equipment, personnel, fuel costs, food, everything. So it's dramatically different between Piccadilly and the companion item, DRC.
So Piccadilly is local. They are providing meals at a cost that appears to be more consistent and reasonable with what we'd expect. The other one is higher because they would be coming in for if we need different level of service or different
Yes,
needs.
ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Commissioner Moss.
Have we ever employed, has it ever been necessary in the past to employ the services of these companies?
No, sir.
From your lips to God's ear, it never becomes that way. Thank you.
That's it, exactly. Vice Mayor?
Is there an intermediate if it's, like I'm thinking back to Wilma, when it was a regional, but the rest of the state could respond? Is there, which one would we use at that point?
I'm not sure if I understood the question. Can you?
What was?
Well, back during Hurricane Wilma, the south area here, anything south of Martin County didn't have gas, so it was pretty much shut down. But within the state, if they're coming from a less further distance, is my question. Is there a, which would we use? Would we use this pricing, or would we use the?
Oh, how do we determine which contract would be activated based upon where a storm was?
It's based on the severity of what we're dealing with.
Yeah. Who makes the determination? How is the determination made? Who to call? Who to call when you got the emergency?
I think if we were terribly impacted here locally and Piccadilly was not available, then we would revert to DRC out of
Wherever.
Texas, I believe they were from.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Further commission discussion? Hearing none, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Moss?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Seegerson-Eaton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee?
Yes.
Mayor Harden?
Yes. Item number 8 is the first reading of an ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, approving and authorizing the proper city officials to execute a First Amendment to renew the service contract for post-disaster emergency catering services between the City of Pompano Beach and DRC Emergency Services, LLC, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
So moved. Second.
Moved and second for discussion. Once again, Ms. Boudreau.
Boudreau, Recreation Director, so all of those same statements are true with the exception of the revised costs and fees, and you have that in Exhibit A in the cost comparison sheet as well.
Very good.
Commissioner, I think that answered your question, why that was such a dramatic cost difference.
It does to an extent. Just how does that work? How is this not, I'm trying to phrase it properly for, like, how is this not some of these prices, and I get it's coming in from out of state, price gouging? Like when I'm looking at almost $3.68 for a water bottle, that it's incredibly high. You know, even with coming in from elsewhere and these other things. That's just because I would assume that if they came here and they're shipping down the food and water supplies, we would probably be using a facility down here that we would be assisting with, or like I'm saying they're not like leasing a place.
Understandable question. Kimberly Spill Cristiano, Emergency Management Administrator. Fair question, because we've obviously vetted this from 5 years ago to today again, looking at it. This is where we would not even have a facility necessarily that would be operational or that we would choose to use. Maybe we would have a better purpose for it at that time. All right, so they would need to mobilize their own fuel, their own lodging, their own everything, right? Their own staff, their own just, it's a mobile city, and it's at the level of military.
Okay.
So that's really what we're doing, and to the cost, I can completely understand that, but you'll see in the documents, they have a record of 100% reimbursement for FEMA. So that, you know, I'm over the public assistance, you know, along with finance, and that's always a consideration. So when I see the dollar sign too, I'm like, you know, but as long as we do the procurement properly and we're following all of those guidelines, that's where that really comes into play, and there's a justification. And this is an honest and earnest justification alongside with the more local, because we would want to use more local if that's more practical. And even before that, we try to utilize you know, local restaurants and so forth that we have in the past, or Wilma in the very beginning stages and so forth, depending on the level of damage.
Thank you. That explains a lot better when it's just breakfast as your line item. It's not as clear. So I get what you're saying now. It's full, bringing down the fuel, lodging, tents, everything. Got it. Thank you.
Very good. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? Please come forward.
Michael Skaversky, 1630 Southwest Fifth Avenue in Pompano Beach. You raised a very valid point. After Wilma, you might even remember, because you were here, after Wilma, restaurants were giving out food and feeding people all over the place for free. Do you remember that? And so, I mean, you can vote how you want, but the restaurants were giving out food for days on end. The restaurant, Carrabba's, they gave out food for over a week. And there were police officers there. I never saw so many Mercedes-Benz and expensive cars fighting for food. You almost couldn't get in. The people were killing each other. So, I mean, nothing against you. I mean, this probably could have been looked into a little bit better, because all the restaurants were giving away their food for at least maybe 2 weeks and making sandwiches, everything, and people were lining up all over. And then at the city park with Wilma, you had, I forget who was out there, the National Guard was, they were handing out water, food, you name it, and the cars were lined up. There were firemen getting stuff that I recall being up at the park working out. So you know that too. You're the parks director.
Right? Well,
Very good. Very good.
Fair points.
So go ahead, continue.
I'm just saying, there was a lot of restaurants at this time frame, because you raised a perfect point. They were handing stuff out. I mean, it was probably tens of thousands of dollars worth of food to the public and the police and the firemen, you name it. Everybody was getting it. My point is, it didn't cost us anything.
Very good, thank you. Further input from the public? Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion. So, Ms. Kimberly, so in a case of a mild storm, if we need to feed people who are on shift and doing their jobs, we're just going to a local restaurant, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Number one, Hurricane Wilma was a Category 1. So this would not be necessarily used for that type of scenario. And again, the food and water, those things work in line with that coming down. We work with the state. We actually order those, National Guard. We order those points of distribution for the public. So that is all in line, and we do utilize what's available. So if there is something locally available, that's what we use first.
So basically, these contracts are like level of severity. It's like the initial contract, Piccadilly, it's like, well, if it's not too bad here and they can operate, we'll use them. But if it's not too bad here and we can utilize local vendors, Carrabba's or anybody else, and I'm not trying to single out Carrabba's, but any local restaurant, we'll go there first. But if they're out of operation, we have to go somewhere. That would be Piccadilly next. But if they're out of operation, then we could go somewhere else, and that's this item we have now, correct?
Try to plan for every scenario.
Right. Makes perfect sense, and that is a good policy to follow. Thank you. Commissioner Moss.
Did I hear you say that these costs are reimbursable by FEMA?
Correct.
And so this company has to be on one level or another approved by FEMA before they can come to us?
They need to be vetted. They need to have certain standards themselves that we vet also. And yes, and as long as it really comes down to procurement and making sure that we're doing the proper procurement, following the policies correctly, and then we are reimbursed.
Okay, thanks very much.
Very good. Further commission discussion? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier.
Yes.
Commissioner Moss.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Segerson-Eaton.
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee.
Yes.
Mayor Harden.
Yes. Item number 9 is the first reading of an ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, approving and authorizing the proper city officials to execute a contract for disaster debris recovery services between the City of Pompano Beach and Crowder Gulf Joint Venture, Inc., providing for severability, providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. Good afternoon, Mr. Ketchum.
Russ Ketchum, Director of Environmental Services. This is a contract for debris management, or as it said, emergency management. We typically use these contracts when we do respond to hurricanes. They're the contractors that historically do the heavy lift, if you will, to clean the streets, remove all the debris, and we use for FEMA reimbursements. So this is the first reading for the Crowder Gulf, who is, by the way, the primary contractor in this.
Very good. Thank you for that. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? Please come forward. Just name and address for the record.
She's bringing my memory back. Mike Skaversky, 1630 Southwest Fifth Avenue. Once again, going back to Wilma, if I recall, we were using some company out in Parkland, and then what happened was they wanted to, whatever the fee was, let's just make up a number of 1,000 when we actually did get hit. I think this may have happened after Irma also. They came in and said, oh, wait, it's going to cost more than $1,000 for us to do this. It's going to cost $3,000. So is this set in stone that this is what?
Contract's a contract.
So
It didn't matter last time.
Well, eventually it did.
Do you
There
remember?
were lawsuits over that, yes.
So actually, the hurricane that you're
Ketchum?
talking about was Irma. The company is Ashbrit.
Out in Parkland?
Closer in Deerfield. But yes,
close, but go ahead.
there was some conversation about pricing and so forth. As the mayor stated, even though it was a conversation, pretty hot conversation, they did abide by their contracted pricing in the end.
Okay, so they did. All right, I do vaguely remember. She's bringing my memory back, and am I correct, where they wanted a specific price?
Actually, some other cities, I believe, were paying a higher price also, but we didn't.
All right, I'm just, you know.
Very good.
I'm not going totally senile.
Further input from the public? Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion. Commissioner Perkins.
Thank you, Mayor. The debris that's going to be removed, do you have any idea where it will be transported to?
So the debris reduction sites, those historically are earmarked. We have an earmark with the county. We also have some internal sites, but quite frankly, these sites are kind of fluid because, for example, Racetrack by the Isles was a site that we used previously that may or may not, probably not, be available anymore, so we would have to fall back on alternative sites. There was probably more driving to the concern of by the Boys and Girls Club. That is not a site that we would pursue.
But do you have any idea where? You said you will not pursue, or
Boys
you
and
might, you said consider Palm Air again.
If there's a site that's available and sizing and so forth, but assuming we can't find anything in Pompano, our fallback or Plan B, if you will, is a Broward County site that's already ready to go.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Further commission discussion? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier?
Yes.
Commissioner Moss?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Segerson-Eaton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee?
Yes.
Mayor Harton?
Yes, item number 10 is the first reading of an ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, approving and authorizing the proper city officials to execute a contract for disaster debris recovery services between the City of Pompano Beach and DRC Emergency Services LLC, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded for discussion. Good afternoon once again, Mr. Ketchum.
Good afternoon, Russ Ketchum, Director of Environmental Services. This particular item in front of you is for the secondary contractor, which is DRC. So then in the case that the primary contractor cannot respond properly, we have the ability then to fall to a secondary contractor for services to assist us in recovering from an event.
Very good. Thank you for that. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion. Questions, concerns? Seeing none, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier?
Yes.
Commissioner Moss?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Segerson-Eaton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee?
Yes.
Mayor Harton?
Yes, item number 11 is the first reading of an ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 155 zoning code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, by amending Section 155.3708, Downtown Pompano Beach DP Overlay District, to provide alternative public parking in exchange for height bonus options, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded for discussion. Good afternoon, Mr. Weems.
Good afternoon. Max Weems, Development Services. Okay, so you may have noticed that there has been more increased interest in new development and new businesses within the Old Town district of the Downtown Pompano Overlay Zoning District. The City Manager's Office recently conducted a study for parking deficiencies within this district, generally the east side of that zoning designation. So the vision for this district is generally downtown or downtown adjacent, and the entitlements that we've permitted through zoning will bring more people to this district, either as residents or visitors. So our access here will certainly require additional parking within this district. While recognizing these parking deficiencies that are identified in the study provided in the backup, we also want to encourage the historic preservation in the district, the active street frontages that we're encouraging with our zoning code, and one way to do this is through structured, centralized, and shared parking. So how will we do this? What we're proposing is a building height bonus of 2 floors for those developments that provide a minimum of 100 public parking spaces within their development. So specifically, If you're within the core and center sub-areas of the downtown Pompano overlay district, that's the dark blue and dark blue hatch on the screen, and a minimum of 100 public parking spaces are provided with a lease agreement from the city, those projects are eligible for an additional 24 feet in height. That's generally 2 floors. So if we're asking for larger private developments to incorporate this public parking into their structures, this would reduce their otherwise habitable space by filling it, by filling the building envelope with the parking spaces. So this is kind of why the give of the height bonus is immediately occupied by the ask. So that's the nexus between the height and the public parking. Most importantly, this is solving a problem for the city where our ability to build a parking garage on land we may or may not own is much more challenging than having a developer who already has an active application or property to incorporate it into their project. Oops, sorry, here's the heights plan. So that 24 feet in height would be in addition to the permitted either 105 or 80 feet that's permitted within those height district areas. Those are the dark red and red areas provided on the map here. And so this height bonus is 24 feet. That can be combined with other height bonuses. So some, for example, like there's park adjacency, which is 28 feet in height. So there is a substantial increase in height permitted with this. Here today, we also have Suzette Sybil, Jeff Lance, and Chris Brown, who worked on the memo that's the impetus behind this change. This change was prepared by Development Services. We received a unanimous recommendation by the Economic Development Council and the Planning and Zoning Board, and staff recommends approval. I and staff are available for questions.
Very good. Does anyone else wish to make a presentation on this, or that's it? Just for questions? Okay, very good. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? Seeing none? Public input closed. Commission discussion. Vice Mayor?
No, I'm really excited to see this concept coming forward. I know we've been trying to implement it with some of the beach new development to expand and spread out the parking ability for the public usage. And I think it's really important to, keep providing parking. And I think it's also very convenient for people who are going places to have their parking garages spread out around the way. The only thing that concerns me on this is in, I think Section 2D, is the lease term. Is there any way we can go higher than 50 years on that? Right now, it's a minimum for a term not less than 50 years.
I think that was actually dictated by a charter.
And that's a charter item.
Nods.
Well, and that being a charter item, I believe we're looking at. I'd almost feel it prudent to delay to try and extend that term. Because my concern is that, these buildings, the downtown district we're creating, is going to last a lot longer than 50 years. So if we're, designing around the idea that we have these parking structures throughout, I want to make sure that 50 years from now, we're not running into, oh no, situation where we now don't have the parking that we had planned to have.
Sure, so I can see that going several ways. A term of no less than 50 years guarantees that the city has control of that parking for that time period. After that time period, it's really hard to say what the conditions will be at that time. There's certainly the opportunity to extend that lease and continue operating that as public space. Developers like those agreements. It gives them some kind of assurances and income and stability, aside from the rents that they get, all whatever. But I can't imagine that they're just going to want to turn that parking back over to, okay, now this parking is available for our residents unless there's a severe demand in that building, at which point we're going to need to look for parking elsewhere anyways. It seems like this will create parking spaces, which may solve a parking problem over time. Our parking requirements for new development aren't being reduced, but I don't really see the 50 years creating a shortage of parking in the future.
In the renewals, because if this is charter situation, in the renewals, would we have a right of first refusal against another parking company? I'm kind of one of the problems over on the beach is the lots that are controlled by individual or independent parking places. And then there's a whole issue that comes up with whether tickets are enforceable or what's going on, and just would we be able to put in a right of first refusal on in case another bidder comes in?
Are these private lots? So I am
Which these would
the
be.
structure is going to be completely different, where you have a development where that parking structure is a part of the development. It's not like a vacant lot or something where they're going to potentially want to redevelop in the future.
I misunderstood yours. It's, some of them are private, as in they're part of a development that's there that's owned separately. The one behind the Briny stretch, and then the one above the buildings over by Pierce on 3rd Street, 2nd Street, that are above those buildings. Those are both managed separately. I would just want to, if we can add that language legally, I think it'd be just prudent to do so at this stage, that we would be able to, if we could just write a first refusal and match them. Okay. And a thumbs up from City Attorney.
It's doable. We'll be happy to do it prior to second reading.
Sounds good.
And of course, if the charter ever changes, we'll amend the ordinance to move whatever the time period would be, the new time period, but that's for later.
Excellent.
Just on that issue, that really kind of gets into the lease terms, and I wouldn't want to see us write it into our ordinance and then tie our hands down the road and say, okay, well, we've got to have right of first refusal, otherwise we can't move forward. And some developer says, well, in 50 years, no, I'm not going to do that 50 years from now. I'll lease it to you for the next 50 years. Sure, let's do this deal, but I can't sit here and do right of first refusal. I mean, I wouldn't want to see us sacrifice an opportunity. Now, encouraging staff, of course, and I mean, these leases would come back before the commission, would they not?
Yes.
Yeah, so encouraging staff to, yes, and as part of the lease negotiations, try and make that one of the stipulations, or if our charter changes by then, we could do something different. But I'm concerned. Mr. Berman says, well, by second reading, I mean, I'm just concerned about it, that's all.
My concern on some of that would be is we have,
No, let's go ahead and,
Sorry.
you finish your statement, then we go to Commissioner Segerson-Eaton.
it's just that by putting certain things, and not just this one specifically, but certain things that the city is looking for into our actual ordinances or code with the new developments, sometimes it comes down to the financing structure of it, where it's not even the developer saying we will or will not do this, it's whether or not the financing wants to do it. And if the financing knows that this is a mandated situation, then there's less wiggle room along the lineage to be as picky-choosy. So again, I would defer to Mr. Berman as to what the best course of action would be, and happy to chat between now and second reading to whatever legal says is the best route to do it. I just want to make sure that if we're giving the bonuses and the height and everything, that they are getting something in return, just to make sure that we're not, that we make sure that we cover our investments as well.
Very good. Commissioner Segerson-Eaton.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I mean, the lease agreements, profit sharing, however that works out, that'll kind of, I think, work out. But I am in full support of this, and I think it's something that we should look at doing citywide. Can you put that map? You just have it around the dotted areas in Old Town, correct?
Yes, so this...
Oh, and it does not include the new downtown area?
It does. So on your screen, the areas here that are dark blue and in the dark blue hatch.
Okay, gotcha.
Eligible to receive the density or height bonus.
I was actually talking to an attorney yesterday who was doing a project on the beach, and mentioned this because I had heard about this concept, and I'm going to tick off a few things, a few reasons why I think that it is good, and I guess I think at some point we might want to look at taking it through the entire city. So I learned that new construction for a single parking space in a parking garage is close to, right around $40,000 per space. That's yes, and you're shaking your head, Max. So, and I'm seeing that this as with a development that's coming in, we are, who is building the project, and an additional floor of parking, say 100 spaces, however that translates, to have 2 additional stories of whether it's a residential unit or whatnot, kind of is a nice trade-off. He's getting something in return, and he's got an economy of scale in the project, in building the project out, where, and the other thing that I find is the diversity of places to park, where, especially in the new downtown, we're talking about building our own parking garage, which is one garage, having it wrapped with commercial to keep it an active area, but it's going to be in one spot, whether it's on the west end or the east end or wherever. This, I think, gives us the ability to have parking all around. Now, maybe I'm overstating the obvious, and y'all have thought about it already, but I think this is fantastic, and I'd like to see us take it citywide, wherever necessary, especially the beach, where we know we're up against, even if we're building another 5-story garage, in 5 years, that might not be enough for every event that we have. We might be a little constrained, so, I was, yeah.
Without some kind of incentive, it's hard to get a developer to just commit that public parking.
Yeah, and with all the new potential development in the new downtown, to be able to be over on the west side and have a parking area conveniently located instead of having to park at public parking way on the east side, it's a whole lot easier and better for everyone to do that. So I think this is a great idea. I don't know who came up with it, but I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
Very good. Further commission discussion? Commissioner Fournier.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree that it's good to see a lot of thought go into parking. It's definitely an issue in the city. If there's 2 things I think people can actually agree on in the city, it's that we have parking issues, and most people tend to agree that they like height restrictions, especially near neighborhoods. And I have concerns about the layering of these height bonuses, especially the one for public open spaces, which gives you 28 feet, and then 24 more feet if you take advantage of this. So we're talking about, instead of 105, which I know is an important restriction here, and people know that that's what we have, you can build 157-story buildings right next to these neighborhoods by being next to a public open space. So how, and as we think about the new downtown, how do we define what is required for a public open space? Is there a certain minimum size? Is there a certain amount of green space? What are these public open spaces that will qualify someone for 28-foot plus, if they take advantage of this, a 24-foot height bonus?
Sure. So similar to these regulating plans, we also have one that is called the Greenways and Open Space Regulating Plan. On that map, it shows like green squares as if they're parks spread throughout this district. Any of those specific locations, properties are immediately adjacent or across the street, are eligible to receive that bonus.
Okay, so Founders Park is one example here, which has very little actual green space and very little open green space because the tennis courts, the Historic Society, all of that. So it's probably about, I don't know, the actual green space without the playground is probably like 100 feet by 100 feet. So as a downtown development happens, will the new public open spaces be designated if they create green space or parks?
Yes, new open spaces will be designated in accordance with that plan. The plan doesn't create the ability for further open spaces, but of course we can amend it over time.
Okay, so my concern is these, I mean, what is the rationale behind allowing a 28-foot height bonus next to a public open space? I'm guessing it's because there's a feeling of being more open, it's obviously distancing it from other adjacent properties. What are the benefits there?
I would say that it's aligned with kind of general place making, like bring people to a place and this will be active. And the open spaces are considered to be like a plaza or gathering area. I understand that in the example you provided, that space may not be exactly used in that way, but that is generally the thinking around that.
Understandable. So we're putting a dense property next to something, and we're letting you have a bonus if you are next to an open space where there is area to congregate or walk your dog, things like that. So I just have concerns that these public open spaces are not adequate to put 157-story buildings next to it. So I would like to see a little bit of work done on defining this public open space and some minimum requirement for that to take advantage of these this layering of bonuses on top of each other to make sure that we don't feel really confined, and to be responsive to the concern that most of the community has about height restrictions near neighborhoods. So I'd like to see some work on that. In theory, I agree that spreading parking out and partnering with a developer to build it is a much better way of doing it than us building it, but this nuance here, I'm not okay with at this point. Thank you.
Very good. Further commission discussion. Commissioner Perkins.
Yes, exactly how many parking spaces are we looking to place there? Here.
So the minimum to be eligible for the height bonus is 100 parking spaces.
So how many parking spaces are you requesting at this point?
No, it's not a specific request for the city. We don't have a specific, this is the volume of parking that must be met. It's purely, we know that parking will be a need in the future, and so we're creating a method in order to have private development provide that public parking on our behalf. So at a time and as it occurs, it'll be a minimum of 100 spaces.
100.
And of course, it would have to be approved in partnership with the city. So we do have the ability to say, we have more public parking than we need, we're done with this bonus.
So looking at the map here, exactly where will you place those parking spaces? Is that all of this in the orange here?
No, I'm sorry. So the dark blue and the dark blue hatch are all of the private properties that are eligible to receive the bonus should they provide the spaces. There's not any specific properties that are identified at this time. As we get applications for private development, we will make them aware of the bonus opportunities and see if they're willing to provide them.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Further commission discussion? Questions, concerns? Seeing none, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier.
No.
Commissioner Moss.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins.
No.
Commissioner Segerson-Eaton.
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee.
Yes.
Mayor Harton.
Yes. Item number 12 is the first reading of an ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, approving and authorizing the proper city officials to execute a construction agreement between the City of Pompano Beach and Arts Sign Company, Inc., to provide sign, design, building, fabrication, and installation for various types of signs for the city on an as-needed basis, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. Good afternoon, Dr. Good.
Hello, good afternoon. Tammy Good, CIP Manager, Engineering Department. Back in November of last year, we solicited for letters of interest from sign fabricator installation companies, and we received 3 firms that showed interest. We brought before you an item to negotiate with those 3 firms, and at this time, only 1 firm has signed the contract, so this is a first reading of an ordinance for that contract. We do anticipate a minimum of 1 of the other firms coming maybe at a later date with a signed contract, and that will come before you as well. That concludes my statement.
Very good. Thank you for that. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion. Questions, concerns? Commissioner Fournier.
I guess I have a question here. So the entryway signs that are in the the backup here that we looked at when we were talking about the CIP plan in the budget last year. Are we going forward with this company for those signs?
Correct. We'll be talking about entryway signs, facility signs, wayfinding, which is why the selection committee decided to take on all three companies because we felt like we had enough work to kind of spread it out. Unfortunately, we just have the one coming before you today, but we will be working on the entryway signs and facility signs, all the signs for the next 5 years.
Okay, I don't recall where this company was in the ranking when we looked at all of them. Were they relatively competitive when we selected them and the other
We
ones?
felt all three were competitive.
Okay.
This particular one was ranked number 2nd. The one that was ranked number 1 is actually working on the signing of the contract and executing their contract now. So hopefully, when I come back before you for a second reading on this item, I'll be coming with the first reading on that contract.
Excellent, thank you, Tammy.
Very good. Further commission discussion? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier.
Yes.
Commissioner Moss.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Seegerson-Eaton.
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee.
Yes.
Mayor Harton.
Yes. Item 13 is a resolution.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, appointing blank to the Recycling and Solid Waste Committee of the City of Pompano Beach to fill the unexpired term of Claudia McMahon Hickman, said term to expire on September 27th, 2025, providing an effective date.
So moved?
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. I'll go ahead and nominate Durward Womack, alternate number 2. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Item number 14 is a resolution.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, appointing blank to the Recycling and Solid Waste Advisory Committee of the City of Pompano Beach to fill the unexpired term of Janice Griffin, said term to expire on May 24th, 2025, providing an effective date.
So moved?
Second.
Mayor,
Moved and second for discussion. Commissioner Fournier.
I'd like to nominate Tony Kissel.
Tony Kissel, District 3. Are there any further nominations for this item?
Yes, Mayor.
Commissioner Perkins?
I'd like to nominate Melissa Banner.
Very good. Melissa Banner. Very good. When your name is called, please indicate your selection, either Tony Kissel or Melissa Banner. Let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier.
Tony Kissel.
Sorry. Commissioner Moss.
Tony Kissel.
Commissioner Perkins.
Melissa Banner.
Commissioner Seegerson-Eaton. Mayor Harton.
Tony Kissel. Thank you. That takes us up to item number 15 is a resolution.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, appointing blank to the Marine Advisory Board of the City of Pompano Beach to fill the unexpired term of Jeffrey Scott, said term to expire on October 28, 2020.
I'll go ahead and nominate Gwen Lees, alternate 1. Any further nominations for this item? Hearing none, nominations closed. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. That takes us up to item number 16. Discussion and consideration item for the annual performance evaluation for Mr. D.C. Kiemba, Internal Auditor. Okay, very good. Is there a motion to put it on the floor?
So moved?
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. Well, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we award 5% merit increase to D.C. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion on this item? This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion? Seeing none, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier.
Yes.
Commissioner Moss.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Seegerson-Eaton.
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee.
Yes.
Mayor Harton.
Yes. Item number 17 is discussion and consideration item for the annual performance evaluation for Mr. Gregory P. Harrison, City Manager.
So moved?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Get it on the floor. I'll go ahead and make a motion. We award 5% merit increase for Mr. Harrison.
Second.
Moved and seconded. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? Please come forward. Just name and address for the record, sir.
You implemented a custom.
Yes.
You implemented use of a customer service relationship manager for tourism purposes? Big deal. Upgraded the Horse Ring Arena in Sanded Spurs Park? Big deal. So you want
It's the commission that makes this decision.
Okay, well, I'm looking at his accomplishments, which is in the backup. These are a joke, the vast majority of them. He talks about grants. Well, the next time you ask for grants, I hope you remember that you just settled a case for sexual harassment recently, and that has to be known when you get more news for you. We could search and find a city manager more qualified than this guy for $150,000. He would make sure that we get taxes cut, not raised. We have I know how everybody's going to vote here. They'll all vote yes, except for the ones that want to cut taxes. I put up a poll on the local website. 7% of the respondents approved of him getting another raise to this crazy number. There should be no raise at all. This is just, I don't know who looked at the backup, his accomplishments. It's a joke.
Very good. Further input from the public?
David Hall, 290 Southeast 8th Court. You'll hear certain things in the media being said about how things should go in this country, and a vocal subset of society will perpetuate these things that certain people shouldn't get things because others can't have it, or others don't get raises, perhaps, so they're not deserving of it. The average increase, wage increase this year in the United States was about 5%. So we're talking about someone who leads a budget that's, for my math and my wallet, pretty close to $500 million. You're talking about someone who has saved or brought into the city almost $100 million in grants. Now, leadership's not a position, it's an action. And the team that he leads, where you just aptly heard the review of our financials, was outstanding. Unbelievably strong. So strong that recently our credit rating was reaffirmed, and renegotiating our GO bonds saved this city a couple $1 million. That's real leadership, and it's a team that gets this done. And it's not just dollars and cents when you're talking about what happens. You're talking about autism, the proclamation you did at the beginning. The city doesn't have to do much more than the month of autism for Autism Speaks and autism awareness and all of those things that are fantastic. It's month after month after month after month that the city does great things for these types of issues that come about that we all are impacted by and should want to help by. So when you talk about people saying you shouldn't get it because I don't know many others that got a raise, doesn't matter. I don't know that we should be compounding the amount of money that someone makes because it just seems like it's high. When we moved here to South Florida, I grew up out west, and they have cute names out west for some of the cities like we used to have here, Pompano, because we're getting better and those are slowly fading away. Now it's a term of affection versus a shot that used to be taken. But there's a city out west called Slaughterhill. The city manager for that city makes what he makes. He's getting a raise. You gotta be kidding me that we're not better dramatically than Lauderhill. Pembroke Pines, comparable. So you don't have to go to California, the Looney Bin out there, out west. You don't have to go to Ocala. You can look at Broward County where there are people in, I would say, inferior cities to Pompano Beach, because I'm partial to it, that make comparable to what he's making, but don't have the strides and the things that we've done. Renegotiating, in your list of backup there, Mike, renegotiating the SROs to saving this city $1 million. I don't know, $1 million is a lot of money. It is to me. So thank you very much. I think he deserves it easily.
Thank you. Further input from the public? Please come forward. Just name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, Jackie Moreland, 1526 Northwest 7th Lane. I am all in favor of whoever is supposed to get a raise and they're worthy of that raise. But when you look at the average salary for city managers in the state of Florida, they range from $100,000 to $150,000. So bringing his salary up to $375,000, I think that's a lot. We can look at the city and see where other things need to be done. I'm not saying he's not worthy of a raise, but I think it's a lot of money. And it doesn't really matter what we say now, because you guys are going to do what you want to do anyway, but that's my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Further input from the public? Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion. Additional discussion. Commissioner Perkins.
As I've been stating since 2016, I would like to see the city manager work with all the commissioners evenly, which I think that I've been having a problem since 2016. As far as getting projects done in my district in a timely manner, or not responding at all, or not responding to emails, or not remembering what we discussed. So I think there's a lot of improvement that needs to be made on his behalf when it comes to, I don't know, maybe, are there any other commissioners up here that have to fight and scuffle to get things done in their district? Maybe it's just me, I don't know. And I have projects that's been out there since 2021. And some of my projects, they're on the budget every year, and still nothing. So I've had this conversation with the city manager several times, and I'm not getting anywhere. Either he just doesn't understand, or he just doesn't care. I don't know which one it is, but I expect the city manager to work with all of the city commissioners equally, based on what they need in their districts, because everybody, or every commissioner needs different things in their district. But I'm very dissatisfied with the city manager as far as projects getting done in my district, the communication that we lack, and it needs to be improved. And I've been waiting since 2016 and nothing, absolutely nothing. Thank you.
Very good. Further commission discussion. Commissioner Fournier.
Thank you, Mayor. So for absolute top threshold pay, I do have really, really high expectations. And I expect someone to be at every event. I expect an absolute, the hardest working, most visionary leadership, progressive leadership around. And I understand Commissioner Perkins' concerns. You know, we all have different relationships here. I do think that the team that is assembled is doing incredibly heavy lifting here and doing an incredible job with the city. But we can't say that we want the budget not to go up this year like we discussed a week ago, and then give out $30,000 raises to one individual. Because that's going to also trickle through an organization. There's implications for all of this every year. So I just think it's excessive, given that we are already at the top, and I can't support it. So thank you.
Very good. Further commission discussion. Vice Mayor.
Yes, I think, you know, we all get into these seats and wanting to do great things for Pompano, and I have been trying to, you know, every year trying to see where we can lower budget and where we can, you know, save taxpayer dollars and do these types of things. But I also know from spending a lot of time on county boards and discussing things with other commissioners, know what an absolute gem we have in our city manager and the staff he's put together, and how, quite honestly, jealous many other cities are of what we've been able to do here in Pompano. And I think that not maintaining these levels would be the definition of penny wise, pound foolish. When we have leadership that finds us multi-million-dollar cuts, or places where we can, you know, cut back and save money or get grants and all these types of things, that's what I would like from a leadership. And I have also found, you know, do I get every single thing I want to try and get to my district first pass, second pass, third pass? No. Also, part of it is, you know, we're each one vote of the dais. You know, there's been plenty of things that I've wanted to cut or wanted to do that I don't have the votes for. And that's the reality of, you know, a representational democracy. That's the government we have, and that we have to work within and live with. But I do think our city has blossomed so amazingly under the leadership of Mr. Harrison and his staff, and I think it's deserved. So thank you.
Very good. Yeah, I just have to say that I've served with a number of city managers. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know, 5 maybe, something like that. And Mr. Harrison, you do a fabulous job for us. Thank you for what you do. And the residents, thank you for what you do. And I fully support, I made the motion, of course, so I support the motion. All right, nothing further. Let's go ahead and call the roll.
Mayor.
Well, Commissioner Seegerstein, sorry.
Just very briefly, I agree. And leadership is, I like the gentleman, Mr. Hall, who, so leadership is an action. It's who you are. And I just have to say, yes, I fight hard for the stuff in my district, and I just want to say it doesn't escape my observance of the amount of money and projects that have been done in District 4 over the past 6 years. And, I'm thinking Mitchell Moore, you got your revamp of the computer center, the new senior center, the beautification of MLK, Annie Gillis Park, the Apollo Park. And I think, if you looked at it and added all of it up, that would be around $70 million worth of improvement projects that went into District 4. So I fight hard for my district, but I'm sitting here laughing, going, oh, I would love to have that much amount of money in my district. And I just have to push back a little bit about it, because I don't know whether you're just not paying attention or whatnot, but I mean, that is a fact, that there's been a great deal of money that's been put into District 4 since the GO bond, and then some, and plus the improvements. And, and I mean, it just blows my mind that you say that nothing's being done. I just can't believe it. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out for the record. Thank you.
Very, very good. Further, Commissioner Moss?
Well, I can't be the only one not to sing the city manager's praises. If you read the Sun Sentinel every morning, as I do, you read the stories about problems that cities throughout the county are having, and you never read that about Pompano Beach. You never read about people stealing things from the city. You never read about fights on the dais. You never read about all of the bad things that happen to cities around this county. And I think it's largely because of the excellent leadership that we have in our city manager. This city is growing like nuts, and most cities couldn't deal with the growth that we're dealing with in as efficient and smooth a way as we're doing. So, I mean, I think you are very well worth the money. And as I said to the young lady from the Pelican when she called me, if this were a private corporation, he'd be getting double the salary, he'd be getting stock options, he'd be getting use of the private plane, and probably a driver and a chauffeur as well. So I think we're getting a deal in Mr. Harrison, and I want to thank you for everything that you do to make this city the great city that it is. Thanks.
Very good. Further commission discussion?
Yes, Mayor.
Commissioner Perkins.
Commissioner, I want to blow your mind again, since you said I'm blowing your mind. Martin Luther King birthday. You come over to the Northwest community and you walk in the streets on Martin Luther King birthday in the Northwest. And I don't know what you're looking at when you're walking, but I'm sure it's not beautiful. The Northwest has been lacking for more than 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, almost 50 years. And you want to sit over there and tell me about a district I represent? I've never said anything about your district. I don't even vote against your district, to be honest, on anything that comes here, okay? But if you want to just say, use for instance, the new Senior Activity Center. I don't think they've been in that building a year. They're having problems with septic tank. I've been trying to get that done. They're having problems with air conditionings, little things like that. I'm trying to get that done. They can't use their cell phones sometime in the building. There's no outdoor activities for them. It was not thought out, and they didn't think it through. But when you build something like the McNabb House, you sit down and you strategize, you put it together, you make sure everything is perfect, that it fits, that there's nothing left wrong or indifferent. But when it comes to District 4, or I should say the Northwest, just give them something. At least they have something. We gave them something. The 731 building, look at it. The landscaping, the painting, the way it looks is terrible. I live in it. I walk in it. I was born in it. For 65 years, I've been in the same location. Yes. Yes, I am. And you want to talk about slum and blight? We receive over $40 million from CRA, and we have nothing to show for it in the Northwest. And now everybody's talking about the new downtown MLK. And the way it should have been done, if you have the new downtown, you should have had a meeting on the east side, you should have had a meeting on the west side. What did the city do? 2 meetings on the east side to exclude the people where this development will take place.
You know, I
So I had to
appreciate it,
have a
but
meeting.
I
I'm
don't
not
need a
done.
lecture from you.
I'll give you some time to talk. So that's why I had the meeting that no one on this dais could attend Tuesday for the residents to voice their opinions, to give their ideas on what they want to see in this project. Because at once upon a time, all those 75 acres were our black businesses and our black homes, which are now gone. Now, this city manager has 3 assistant city managers, and I work well with them. But when it comes to the city manager, he sits down there when we're at a meeting and texts and whatever on his phone. And when I asked him the last meeting, what is your take on the shootings? Remember what he said? The parents. And the parents don't check the backpacks. What does that have to do with the shootings and the killings in this city? It's not getting any better. You can't turn your head from it. You can't just look away. It's not going to go away. I'd like to see this whole city, especially city staff, I would like to see them sit down and say, well, how can we work with the community and make this a better relationship, rather than sit at City Hall in that 4-story building, instead of saying, how can we belittle this one? How can we outdo this one? How can we make them look bad? How can we scandalize that one? How can we work together is what it is. Because right now we're living in 2 different cities. We have the East and we have the West. I have spoken to the city manager over and over and over again. I just don't know what it is. Either he doesn't get it or he does not care. Now, where in the state of Florida do we have a commissioner that have 2 titles? He's the city manager and he's executive director of CRA. Why? There's no one in the United States qualified to be our CRA executive director? No one? But our city manager? And remember now, when we were going to have that charter school, I think he was supposed to be the school superintendent too, right? Really? I don't really consider myself a very difficult person to get along with, but I like to be fair, and I would like a business relationship with the city manager. I've always wanted that. I am here for the people. I have people to serve. I'm a service to the people. Mr. City Manager, you work for me. Am I right?
You betcha.
Thank you. I'm done, Mayor.
Very good. Further commission discussion? Seeing none, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier?
No.
Commissioner Moss?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
No.
Commissioner Segerson-Eaton?
Takes us up to additional audience to be heard, and hopefully we have any. Is that correct?
No further.
Very good. Our next scheduled meetings are April 23rd, 2024 at 6 p.m., a regular City Commission meeting. May 14th, 2024 at 1 p.m., regular City Commission meeting, followed by May 28th, 2024 at 6 p.m., regular City Commission meeting. Takes us up to reports. Mr. Harrison, any report?
No report, sir.
Very good. Thank you for that. Mr. Berman, any report?
No report.
Very good. Mr. Alfred, any report?
Mayor,
Yes.
this afternoon, Gwen Lace was promoted from alternate 1 to a full membership, and that created a vacancy for alternate 1. And I was hoping to get the commission support to move alternate 2, Kenneth Colin, from alternate 2 to alternate 1.
Yes.
Then bring back an item for commission consideration to fill the alternate 2 position.
That's a very good idea. Let's do that.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Concludes my report.
All right. Takes us up to City Commission. Commissioner Fournier.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 quick things. Kester Park is now open, and the kids are playing baseball out there. We kicked it off with a fun community day at the end of March. The fields look great, so thank you to the city for that. We had another BSO versus fire food competition, and this time the outcome was a little different. This time it was a burger competition, and the fire department actually won this one. So it was a really fun day out there. We had people in the dunk tank, Mark Boudreau in the dunk tank, a bunch of other coaches around the city, and it was, so thank you for that. And then I have a resident who's hosting a beach cleanup. It's inspired by Earth Day this month at the beach on Sunday, April 14th, Pavilion 3 at 11 a.m. So if anyone's out there and wants to help clean up, or if any kids need service hours, any high schoolers need service hours, they can get those through her beach cleanup on Sunday. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Moss.
Thank you, Mayor. This Wednesday, the 17th of April, the Pompano Beach Historical Society will be celebrating its 50th anniversary. We'll be having an open house from 3 to 6, where you can go in and see some of the Kester cottages. Then there'll be a reception of sorts after that. Also, Saturday, the 20th of April, will be the last of the Palmair concerts on the Esplanade, the gazebo. It's free, and everyone is invited to be there. And also, finally, we have nailed down a date for a town hall meeting with Senators Pizzo and Polsky regarding issues facing condominiums and legislation that has not been passed in the legislature. That will be on Wednesday, the 29th of May, at 6:30 p.m. at the Herb Skolnick Center in Palmair, excuse me, and we'll be getting advertisements out on that. But I think anyone who lives in a condominium who is concerned about the cost of fully funding reserves, going through your 40-year concrete restoration, and also the cost of insurance, should be there and listen to what the senators have to say. They are working hard for those of us who live in multifamily environments, and I think it'd be important for those of us who live in condominiums to be there. So everyone in the city is invited, and that will be at the Herb Skolnick Center in Palmair. Starting at 6:30 to meet the senators, and the program will begin at 7 p.m. And that'll do it for me. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for that update. Appreciate it. Commissioner Perkins.
Thank you, Mayor. A few meetings ago, we talked about and discussed the shot spotter, and all of us, including myself, voted to not extend the contract for the shot spotter. And since that time, I've been getting quite a bit of feedback from the community of the importance of it, and speaking to the actual company themselves about it. And I didn't get a very clear picture of the background of it when BSO presented it at that meeting, not knowing that only 11% basically, no one is calling, I should say, when they hear gunfire. So I think this is something we need to probably bring back and probably reconsider. I know it's a lot of money, but perhaps it'll change lives with the shootings that we have going on in the community. I remember I stated at that meeting that there was some gunfire on 16th, and the gunfire was really on 15th, which is not far away. But I think we need to reconsider bringing it back pertaining to the gunfires we have in the community, and because residents are not calling when they hear gunfire. So I'd just like for us to keep that in mind, if that should come back up again. But I think it's something very important that we need, and the word is out in the community that we have gotten rid of it. So I think people feel a little more comfortable they can shoot and stand there because they know we've taken it away. So I think it's something we need to reconsider and possibly bring back into the community so that we could help with the gunfire. But it's something that I will bring up to the sheriff when we meet on Tuesday, April 16th at the Pat Larkin Center at 3:30. So Sheriff Tony will be there, and hopefully he can help us address this. And I'd like to hear his basically take on the shot spotter. But to my knowledge, I think they only have 3 cities in Broward, which is, I think it's Lauderhill, Pembroke Pines, and it was Pompano. So with that in mind, that's it. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Segerson-Eaton.
Yeah. One thing real quick, Untapped, I went there this past Friday, and I gotta say, every month, it's getting better and better, and it just was so well attended, and people that I talked to were coming from all over the county and from the north, so I just want to say congrats, you guys are doing a great job, and going next month. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Vice Mayor?
No report.
No report. Wow, okay. Well, thank you for that. Let's see, just a couple of things. Yeah, I want to just remind everyone again, Commissioner Perkins already brought it up, but yeah, we are hosting a community meeting about gun violence and what's going on with crime in the city. That is on Tuesday, April 16th at 5:30 at the Larkin Center. Yeah, the sheriff will be there. I asked the city manager to set that up last meeting, which it's timely that we have that kind of a meeting. Also, I've got, we talked about earlier that the vice mayor mentioned the private parking lots. And there is a law that looks like it's going to go into effect in July, which allows us to mandate certain things for these private parking lots. And I printed it out here. I'll give it to Mr. Berman for his I'm sure he already has it, but anything we can do to help to further regulate those private parking lots and ensure that people realize they are private parking lots, they are not city parking lots, and make sure there's adequate signage and there's protections for consumers basically with this new state law. It's not often the state does something to really help, but they did this time. So yeah, that's something, because we have a couple of them already, we need to make sure we implement whatever changes we can there. And that's it. That's all I've got. Thank you much.
Mayor?
Yes, Irvin.
Before adjourning the meeting, I wanted to ask for everyone to leave behind their iPads. There's a critical update that needs to be done. If everyone can leave behind their iPads for update.
Well, I can't make them, but from your lips, how's that? Absolutely.
Okay.
Very good. Anything further?
That's it.
All right, thank you. This meeting is adjourned.